everybody. This is the Wednesday, May 17th AM session of the Portland City Council. Carla, please call the roll.
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman.
Here.
Udaly.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Wheeler.
Here. And before we begin, I just want to extend a couple of congratulations. First of all, I want to congratulate our city auditor, Mary Hull Caballero, and her team on a resounding and overwhelming victory last night on the independence effort that was referred by the Portland City Council to the ballot last night. I want to thank the auditor and her team, and I most certainly want to thank the voters of this community for supporting what I think is a very good and strong statement in support of government accountability. I also want to thank my colleague, Commissioner Nick Fish, and the Portland City Council, who referred a tax fairness to the measure to the ballot, which also won by landslide proportions. That was an attempt at tax fairness to make sure that out-of-state providers of overnight rental units were paying the same taxes as a bed and breakfast operator in St. John's might be paying. And the voters saw the wisdom in that as well. So again, I want to thank Commissioner Fish, I want to thank the City Council, and I want to thank the public for supporting what we all believe to be a very sound improvement and a big step towards tax fairness. So thank you all for that. Now, before we jump into our usual testimony, I am compelled to read our statement on decorum. Some of you now know it by heart. The purpose of council meetings is to do the city's business, including hearing from the community on issues of concern. In order for us to hear from everyone and to give due consideration to matters before the council, we must all endeavor to preserve the order and the decorum of these meetings. To make sure that the process is clear for everyone, I want to review some of the basic guidelines, which I hope will make everybody feel comfortable, welcome, respected, and safe at the meeting, and to also ensure that decorum is maintained. There are two opportunities during the meeting for public participation. First, we have an opportunity for people to sign up for communications to briefly speak about any subject that they would like to address. These items must be scheduled in advance with the clerk's office. Carla is here today as our able clerk. Second, people may sign up for public testimony on the first readings of reports, resolutions, and ordinances. If you do sign up, your testimony must address the matter being considered at the time. Please state your name for the record. We don't need your full address. If you're a lobbyist, please disclose that. If you're here representing a organization, that would be helpful to know as well. Individuals have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light in front of you on the little box there, it's going to light up and there'll be a beep. And then when your time is done, the red light lights up and there's a series of beeps. Conduct that disrupts the meeting, for example, shouting or interrupting other people's testimony or interrupting during council deliberations, is not allowed. Personal attacks and insults levied against city and council staff, many of whom are required to testify as a condition of their employment, will not be tolerated. People who disrupt the meeting face ejection from the meeting. If there is a disruption, I'll issue a warning that if any further disruption occurs, anyone who's disrupting the meeting will be subject to ejection for the remainder of the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave the meeting after being ejected will be subject to arrest for trespasses. If people would like to show their support, thumbs up. If you don't want to show your support, that's fine, thumbs down. But we just ask people not to be verbally expressive so we can keep things moving along. And so with that, Carla, please call the first communication.
Item 483, request of Kim Smith to address council regarding Greater Portland Sustainability Education Network.
Good morning.
Should all three of us come up together at the same time?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Since all three of you are speaking on the same subject, you each get 3 minutes, but why don't you come up at the same time? That'd be great.
I'll read the other two. 484, request of Alfredo Gonzalez to address council regarding Greater Portland Sustainability Education Network. And 485, request of Ibrahim to address council regarding Greater Portland Sustainability Education Network.
And Jocelyn Gary, no show today. Okay, very good.
Her grandfather is passing away, sadly.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yep.
So thank you very much for having us. My name's Kim Smith, and I'm the director of the Greater Portland Sustainability Education Network. And we would like to share with you our work, as well as give some updates on some projects we've done over the last few years. We met in council with you in 2015, and with obviously new commissioners, wanted to give you an update. So understanding GIPSN itself, we are focused on the power of collective impact and wanting to make sure that we support collaboration across sectors. And in understanding the name, we're a network using sustainability education to create a greater Portland, all right? And so if you reference the annual report that you have there for 2016, I just want to point out that we are an RCE, which means a Regional Center of Expertise on Education for Sustainable Development. The Greater Portland region has been recognized as an RCE by the United Nations. In fact, we have some fellows here from Finland who have also been recognized, so that's nice to have international guests. So looking at the report, we've done a lot of progress in developing education and research, training opportunities, expanding our youth network and college networks, as well as outreach and media efforts to increase our public awareness campaigns, and a variety of events, trying to advance Portland's story around sustainability, as well as increasing opportunities for more folks to get engaged. So in looking through the report, as well as some future opportunities, we've received a lot of focus from other countries and other cities around the US, and we're hoping that we can achieve more. And we recognize there are limits in capacity, limits in funding, but we'd love to have some greater support and some ideas on how to increase cross-sector collaboration to advance formal and community education, workforce training, and public awareness campaigns that address issues of sustainable development. And so one of the events that's coming up, in the second handout, in the small handouts that I gave you, focus on World Environment Day. I don't know if you remember that Portland hosted World Environment Day in 2013. So we are going to be hosting a global goals fair. So the other handout you have are the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you haven't been following Agenda 2030 or the Sustainable Development Goals, this is an incredible effort for Portland to be highlighted. Countries around the world are trying to achieve these goals, and our focus is to think about what can we do on a regional level and on a local level to help advance those efforts. So this event is happening. We are going to be highlighting 17 groups focused on each of the goals that are doing great work in the region. So that's an invitation, of course, to attend, but also just to think about how can we align Portland initiatives and reporting structures so that we can tell the story at the state, national, and international level around these different 17 goals. So I look forward to working with you, and hopefully we'll have opportunities to achieve the goals together. I'm going to hand, I know in the order it was Alfredo, but we're going to have Ibrahim speak next on the Youth Network.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Ibrahim. My parents are immigrants from Sudan, and I'm the coordinator for the GIPSN High School Youth Network, and I'm a junior at Oregon Islamic Academy. So the role of youth and local sustainability is an important one. And although Portland does harbor several opportunities for youth to get involved, those opportunities aren't advertised to them. And there's thousands of high school students in Portland public schools, but there aren't that many getting involved in sustainability opportunities. And so what the GIPSN Youth Network does strive for is to get those students who aren't already involved. And part of that means to communicate to Portland Public Schools what we're trying to do and for them to promote our initiatives to the students. Now, beyond recruitment, what the Youth Network serves to do is promote sustainability education through the leadership of young people. We have accomplished a lot, including sending me to a global RCE conference in Indonesia to talk about our work here in Portland. But there's still a lot more that we can do. We do plan on partnering with other youth groups established under other organizations. We've actually started doing that already with World Affairs Council and Model UN. But we also want to get involved with local government. Trying to address local sustainability issues along with the local government as high school students would serve as a method to incentivize other high school students who aren't already involved to get involved. They'd feel that their voices are being heard, that they're going to be empowered and that they're important. And if current members will feel that way, they'll tell their friends to join the network. And that sort of expansion of the network would lead to more youth involvement in sustainability and beyond in Portland and hopefully across the United States. And that's the goal. And this helps, like I said, with recruitment and students getting involved in local sustainability. And that's all I have to say.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I have a question. Have you reached out to the Multnomah Youth Commission?
I have been in contact with them, and I've met with them a couple of times, and hopefully in the near future, we'll be engaged in more conversation.
Terrific, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Were you at the MET fundraiser on Saturday night?
Yeah, we shook hands and we exchanged some words.
Mayor, I had a chance to say a few words, and there were a lot of young people there, and I encouraged the young people to go up to the adults in the room, get a card, and ask someone to open a door, be a mentor, provide a career path. And as I was leaving, one person came up to me, and it was this young man.
Oh, that's great.
So I appreciate that you took advantage of that, and
Thank you.
Santa Lawrence is in the process of setting something up. So
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alfredo Gonzalez Valenzuela, and I am originally from Peru. I'm here representing the Gypsum Network, but I also work for the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. I'm a recent PSU graduate, and I just wanted to touch a little bit on how the college network is an important piece of Gypsum. And it's made up really of different higher educational institutions. It happens to be Portland State, Portland Community College, University of Portland, Lewis and Clark, among other universities. And the points that I really want to touch on is how we engage communities of color. I really appreciate, Mayor Wheeler, your enthusiasm to be able to reach these, 100 renewable energy goals. And part of the reason why the CAP, the Climate Action Plan, was so successful is because we were able to engage communities of color in the planning process and how to reach these goals. So for me, it's really important to engage these communities as we move forward to the goals that we seek. And so in order to engage those residents, it's important to bring an international component that acknowledges the roots of people. So that is one of the strategies that we're working with the college network, is how we unify our strengths in order to accomplish these 17 goals. A second piece of that is how we support diverse students to get hired, like myself, into institutions and in the environmental workforce in general, and retain them and promote them as well. And so for me, it's very important to have a space where I'm able to meet people like Ibrahim and people that are also at PSU, so that we collaborate and we share resources and mentor and support each other to move forward as a unit. But that gets to the second piece, or the third piece, I mean, is how do we do this work beyond just Portland, and how in the future, people like me can learn all these things about sustainability that we really are not educated about in the underdeveloped world, and how people like me can go on to go to different countries, go back to Peru, for example, and move forward in sustainable development goals as well, because it's a mutual collaboration that has to happen globally. So once again, thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to more collaboration and this type of work.
We appreciate your coming in. This is excellent testimony.
I just want to comment that I think your being hired is one of the missing pieces that we've been hoping for. We've had this presentation before in 2015, and yet there wasn't that much connection with city government. So although I support your desire to go back to Peru, I hope you'll just visit and then come back here, because we really need you here. And having a young person or young people under Dr. Smith's guidance to further this work is something that I know that everyone on the council holds dear. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
You're welcome. And Alfredo is on our board of directors, so we're having a lot of great leadership coming from across ages, across regions, and I'm grateful for his support, and thank you for that comment.
Thank you. Congratulations on your success. We sure appreciate it.
How many students are involved with Gypsum?
Well, across the whole region, over 200 at least, but there's a whole big listserv that they get lots of different outreach and communication and cross-promotion, so it's hard to kind of count who's actually attending. When we have events, it's 30, 40 people.
Is it mostly high school students?
The college network, well, the youth network is a different number, but the
Oh, okay.
college, yeah, We have both the college network and then as well as different professional, we have a think tank, so we have a lot of professionals that are doing research on that level. So each one has a different set of numbers.
Okay.
I'm sorry for not having that.
That's okay. I'm just
I don't know if you
curious.
do for youth numbers.
We have 7 members for the high school network, and then, but everyone has their own circle where we're bring to events, so every event would have like 30, 40 people.
I met with a fledgling high school, district-wide high school-based environmental group yesterday, so I'm just
Oh, good.
wondering if there's an opportunity there, so.
Yes, and we have a whole listserv and connection, and you'll see on the, both handouts, the report and the card, and it says to get involved, just go to gypsum.org.
Great.
And feel free to send introductions, and we'll be sure to connect them with the right people.
Thank
Just
you.
have one more suggestion, and that is to reach out to Momentum Alliance, which is the new nodding, the new diversity and civic leadership group within the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, and they
Great.
have a lot of young people, particularly people of color. I see Alfredo nodding, so that would be a great connection for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll teach you. You come in to testify and we give you homework.
Perfect. Of course, we'd love to have retirees and people of all ages and expertise involved as well, so glad to have our youth with us, but want to also invite others to participate.
Thank you so much for sharing it with us this morning. We appreciate it very much. And I understood that 486 is not here. Jocelyn Gary's not here, correct? Okay, very good. Next item, please, Carla. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 487, request of Michael Jennings to address council regarding Portland City Manager's plan to force the closure of a world-famous art gallery.
Good morning.
Morning. A Portland City contractor is planning a renovation that would force the eviction and closing of an extremely successful, world-class, block-long art gallery that sells the work of over 900 artists. The gallery is a major attraction in guidebooks sold in foreign countries, for example. Forcing the art gallery to close would make downtown Portland less attractive to shoppers. Here are some details of the plans for renovation of the 10th and Southwest Yamhill Smart Park parking structure where the gallery is located. Every year for 9 years, the city has threatened eviction of every tenant. Because of those threats, businesses didn't improve operations. That lowered the attractiveness of downtown Portland. The Portland Department of Transportation, the owner of the parking structure, has lost perhaps $2 million in lease fees. Since eviction was planned in a few months every year, there has been a lower month-to-month rental. Evicting businesses discourages investment. The 10th and Yamhill parking structure needs renovations, but they must be planned and supervised by skilled Portland city managers concerned only with the best interest of the city. An unsupervised contractor may plan far more work than necessary. FFA Architecture and Interiors is the contractor. FFA is being paid $1.2 million to do the planning. During months of research, I've seen no evidence that FFA has the necessary ability to design renovations. I've given you my 8-page review of one example of FFA's plans. FFA's plans put RACC, the Regional Arts and Culture Council, in charge. You can see 2 examples of management by RACC at the bottom of page 2 of the review I've given you. Here's examples. FFA's website shows little evidence that the company has done more than make small changes to existing buildings. The website shows poor choices, in my opinion. See ffadesign.com. FFA's plans would cause about 60 people to lose their jobs and over 900 artists to lose a place to sell their work. I'm hoping city managers will, A, find a knowledgeable manager for the renovation, somebody who works for the city and has the best interest of the city at heart. B, make all plans public. C, find ways to do the renovation a little at a time so that no tenant is evicted. I can provide more information. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your testimony. So it is my understanding, Carla, that the entire consent agenda has been pulled. Is that correct?
No, 492 497, and 499.
492, 497, and 499. Can you please call the roll on the remainder of the consent agenda, please?
Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The consent agenda is adopted. Give me one moment. Let me look at the items that we've pulled.
We have a time, Mayor, we can do the time certains first.
Yeah, that's my thinking, but let me check, Nick. 497, 499. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go to item 488 first, please.
488, revised transportation fees, rates, and charges for fiscal year 2017-18 and fix an effective date.
Good morning. How are you today?
Morning.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and City Commissioners. I'm Caitlin Reff, Program Development Manager at PBOT, and I've been working with Christine Leon, Development Permitting and Transit Group Manager, and our Bureau Budget Advisory Committee on a comprehensive look at our annual fee update. We do this every year, and today we're submitting PBOT's annual fee update ordinance. This ordinance is PBOT's annual update to transportation fees, rates, and charges in accordance with city policy. This includes 7 fee schedules, A through G, for parking, land use review, development and right-of-way construction and use, temporary street use, miscellaneous fees, regulatory, and right-of-way use enforcement. This ordinance makes adjustments to fee rates and charges that will be effective July 1st of 2017. And the revenue from these fees and adjustments are included in the mayor's proposed budget for the Bureau of Transportation. So I will focus on development, permitting, and transit group fees on schedules B, C, D, and G. And with me is Dave Benson, Parking and Regulatory Group Manager. He will focus on schedules A and F. The Development Review Group of PBOT relies on a cost recovery model to carry out specific requests from customers in reviewing and providing permits. PBOT considered how incremental adjustments could be made for fees that are currently below a full cost recovery without creating significant spikes to customers. Some rate increases include caps, while others we have kept low, below full cost recovery, and are subsidized. For example, some community use fees and permits, and as well as development early design assistance. For this year's update, and consistent with years past, we remain committed to Vision Zero and affordable housing objectives. To provide better service, there are a couple new fees for temporary street use and traffic control permitting. We're also very excited to be taking a closer look at permit compliance and permitted work in the right-of-way. To meet Vision Zero objectives, we have a new schedule for right-of-way use enforcement penalties, and we will be conducting outreach and education prior to a phased implementation later in 2017. So the impact statement that you have provides a summary of highlighted changes, which I'm happy to elaborate on as needed. Christine Leon, as well as the DPT division managers, are here today if there are any program-specific questions. And now I'll let Dave Benson introduce the parking and regulatory schedules.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Dave Benson. I'm the Parking Services Group Manager at PBOT. And I'll give you just a high-level view of the changes we're recommending in Schedule A. You'll notice the meter districts. We're not recommending any meter rate changes for the meter district. I think later this year, we're likely going to come back to you and recommends performance-based pricing approach to setting meter rates. In the Smart Park garages, Smart Park, as you know, is 6 garages, about 4,000 parking spaces. We're making some nominal adjustments based upon occupancy. At the 10th and Yamhill garage, we expect a little disruption during a construction project, so we're recommending we're going to lower the rate by $1. 3rd and Alder and 4th and Yamhill, we're just raising $1. These are the day rates. And O'Brien Square are raising day rates. Again, these are based upon occupancy. The reduced rate swing shift program, remember we implemented that last year. It provides parking for people of modest incomes that work in the afternoons. In downtown, we sold only 40 passes as of March of this year, so it's the involvement or participation in that program has been fairly modest.
So could you please do some outreach and see if you changed the hours, if that would make any difference?
Well, Commissioner Fritz, the hours for the program are set partly due to occupancy. The garages between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. are very, very full. And the focus of all the smart parks is short-term parkers, so it would be hard to accommodate more parkers earlier if that's what we're getting at.
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, the lower rate starts at 3 o'clock, is that?
Yes.
If it could start at 2:30, that way people who are going to work 3 to 11 could use it. You
We
can't.
could certainly look at that.
That's
Yeah.
a standard swing shift, and
Yeah,
I
so
think
if
that's the point.
you can't be late every day because you have to
Yeah.
get parking.
We'll be happy to look at that. The area parking permit program, we charge a cost recovery model, $60 to produce an area parking permit. We issued almost 40,000 parking permits last year. In future years, we may want to approach it as a management tool and maybe coming back to council to request a rate increase, but for right now, we're going to leave it in place. On Exhibit F, the towing rate, these are only service fees returned to the city. These aren't the rates the towers charge. We're recommending implementing a $9 derelict RV fee for all tows. The three commissioners that were with us last November, may recall that council gave us $150,000 of general fund dollars to recycle derelict RVs. As you know, RVs actually have virtually no scrap value. In fact, it costs about $900 to recycle them. And so when we're pulling through the abandoned auto program, derelict RVs off the street, we run them through a recycling program at city expense. Rather than coming back to council with, continuing requests for general fund dollars, we thought we'd recommend adding this derelict RV fee, and so we could continue the program going forward. I've also included some service fees. The number of tows that we oversee is doubled. Just the abandoned auto tows and requests that we see has quadrupled in 4 years. We have one person that manages the towing program, so we added some service fees in there for administrative costs so we could hire somebody else. And that's all I have for you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I just had one question, and it's really a timing question. So you're bringing these potential fee adjustments to us based on the proposed budget in anticipation of us actually approving the budget at the rates or given the levels of expenditure that we've proposed. What if things change? Do we have the opportunity between first and second reading to adjust that, or what usually happens?
Well,
For example,
generally-
let me just give you a
Right.
concrete example.
Generally,
Let's-
council doesn't adjust. We come to council every year, but always council certainly has the right to revisit this.
Well,
and-
you mentioned Vision Zero, for example, and I could see a scenario whereby a commissioner might say, okay, I like what's in the proposed around Vision Zero, but I'd really like to see more go to Vision Zero. Wouldn't that affect some of the fees that have been proposed around the support of Vision Zero?
I think that we would have to look at it on a specific basis for each fees, because there's quite a bit that's included in each schedule, but we would definitely be able to revisit before adoption.
Okay.
Or
Yeah, I was
next-
just
second
curious,
reading, I guess.
having
Yeah.
not gone through this process, it just struck me as a little premature to settle in on the fee structure before we've actually approved the budget, but that makes perfect sense, Caitlin. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question if I could. I don't know who to direct this to, but could we turn to Exhibit E for a second? There's a lot of documents here, a lot of fees. So this is, Exhibit E is other transportation fees, and it includes film and video fees. And I just want to note that you're not proposing any increases in those fees. Two questions. One is, when you set those fees annually, do you actually do that in concert with the film industry? Or how do we set these rates?
I think you picked a fee that is a bit more obscure. Do you want to
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't need an answer today. If I'd be happy with a follow-up, because the second part of my question was, the mayor has proposed a budget note, which we're going to approve, that directs the city budget office to take a look at the Office of Film and to come up with some recommendations for how to put it on sustainable funding going forward. And one of the things we'll be looking at is what fees are generated by that office, and how might some of those fees support the work of the office. So I guess 2 questions, which I'm happy to get an email. One is, how do we set these fees? And number 2 is, what do these fees bring in annually? And if I could see, like, over the last 3 years, just the amount that these fees come in. And these are the fees that we charge when a film wants to shoot and they need to park their vehicles at a site. And I'm told by people that do film here that it is one of our competitive advantages in that we provide this concierge service, and they're very complimentary of the service they get from both PBOT and from the Police Bureau. So thank you for that. But if I could just get a follow-up response in
Definitely.
writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you. I'm always interested in the daily maximums. And given we just had some testimony under Citizen Communications about the 10th and Yamhill garage, it looks like that's the only one that's actually going down for daily maximum from 13 to 12. All the others are either staying the same or going up $1. Why is that change happening?
The 10th and Yamhill garage, the occupancy right now based upon 6-month average data is running about 78%. Our target is 85%. So we know that when occupancy is a little bit lower, we can adjust occupancy with pricing. I will also offer that the Downtown Retail Council, our partner in this, thinks that our rates are perhaps too low, and would have argued that we should just hold the line on the rates at 10th and Yamhill. But because of the occupancy and because we're looking at construction over the next year, we thought we'd lower them $1 a day to see if we can move occupancy up a little bit.
So what's going to happen when they are doing the construction? Will the whole garage be closed?
No. There will be some floors closed at various times, but our goal is to keep as much parking available as we can to, not to have us, to really limit the disruption.
Well, you might want to reconsider that particular one because it's right next to the Target and very much in the heart of the retail core. And so again, if we could get the low-income fares starting, parking starting at 2:30 or even 2:45, that might take care of some of your occupancy problem. So just something to consider, please.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner
Mayor, I
Daly.
also have a question. Exhibit A area parking programs. Can you tell me where zones G and N are by any chance?
Central East Side.
It is. And that's a significant increase, like a 60% increase.
Right.
Are we concerned at all about low-income residents not being able to afford those permits?
So the area parking permit program has two components. It is a community-driven program. There is an underlying charge of $60 that I mentioned. It's our administrative cost to actually produce a permit. The surcharges are actually recommended by the community, the neighborhood community, and they use those what we call surcharge dollars, or those excess dollars for transportation safety projects in their area. For instance, they use them to reduce the cost of transit passes. On the Central East Side, they're looking at providing streetcar passes with these dollars. So yes, it is a significant rate increase, but I don't want to speak for them, but I know their goal is to have permits more reflect the value of the actual parking. I mean, when we're talking about $200 to $300, that's for an entire year. So that's a relatively inexpensive cost, and that's been their goal.
And what body is making these recommendations? You said it's coming from
They
the
have
community.
a TPAC, or they have a Central East Side, has a neighborhood committee, and they make these recommendations about adjusting these surcharges. The same one that Northwest, you may have heard about, they want to charge $180. Again, our underlying charge is $60. The additional over that, the community actually directs for transportation demand management.
Well, is there any accommodation or recourse for low-income residents? They can set up monthly payments, or they can get a discounted pass?
Yes, I know in Northwest, they've addressed this issue and they've worked on this. I can't speak specifically to Central East Side, but I can certainly provide you information about that.
I'd appreciate that. I don't want to set up low-income residents for not being able to afford the pass and then being penalized for parking without the pass. And I don't want to exacerbate the ongoing displacement of our residents in the Central East Side.
Okay.
Public testimony?
Yes, we have 3 people signed up.
Very good. If you guys could just cool your heels for a bit. Thanks.
We have Joe Walsh, Robert West, and Charles Bridge Crane Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Joe Walsh. I represent Individuals for Justice. Anytime one of your staff come here with a report and they don't have the information that they should have, you should stop everything. The other thing that we object to is the ongoing fines against disabled people. We would like to know how many disabled people have been forced into court in their wheelchairs, in their crutches, because they got a ticket for overparking. Because at one time, not too long ago, they could park for free, but you took that away because you're so damn interested in money. It's all money about you millionaires up there. By the way, would anybody that's not a millionaire up there raise their hand? I didn't think so.
Seriously?
I know you are. What's the other one? I'm not sure about Commissioner Fish, but you
Mr.
three
Walsh,
are
please
millionaires,
keep your testimony
and
on
the
point.
parking, when you have one of your staff sit here and say $300 is not so much, it's over a year's period. He makes $100,000 a year, and you are millionaires. So it makes no difference to you. You just screw the citizens over and over and over again until they run you out of office. And that's what's happening. You don't understand what's happening, but you will, salesman, you will fish. Check unemployment, it's not very high.
Good morning.
Well, I guess I'll speak now. My name is Robert West. I'm with Film the Police 911. And I'm really concerned about your fees because I'm alternative media. I'm also on disability. And to go get a media pass, it costs over $540. And that's only in a short period of time. And I don't have that kind of money usually, so I don't get a media pass. I also got arthritis in my back, and I'm classified as disabled. And yeah, you guys took away the downtown parking, so now I got to park across the river and walk across the bridge. The other thing that I'm concerned about is there's not too much disabled parking along the waterfront area. So people that are the people that work over there park in the hour, 2-hour spots and leave the zone G spots wide open. So if someone that's disabled wants to go to OMSI or something, when they get back, there's a ticket on their car, but someone that's working over there, there's no tickets on their cars. And that's wrong. You know, you guys need to fix what you have. Either give the disabled people free parking like you did before. Now you got paid parking up by the hospital. And I think that's totally ridiculous to put paid parking where people are going to go in and see their loved ones. They can't park in the garage because that's for patient and workers only, and they charge a huge fee to park in their garage. So we have to, somewhere along the way, the city council has to stop with their thing of being so greedy and say, hey, we got to do something for the public, okay? Pull those meters, pull those paid parkings over by the hospital. The other thing is allow the disabled to park downtown without worrying about a ticket. And also reduce your media pass for disabled people and people that are not Channel 6. Channel 6 can afford those media passes like like you can afford a candy bar, but disabled and low-income people can't afford those media passes, and they're getting tickets. And that's wrong. It's wrong to watch someone in a wheelchair or disabled to go in because they got a parking ticket, because someone that's working wants to park where in front of their business, or their car's too long in a certain spot and they're on crutches and can't get to their car in time. You know, that stuff needs to be worked out before you say, okay, yeah, we'll grant all these fees and stuff like that. You know, because these fees affect people. They affect low-income people. They affect residents. I mean, what are you going to do? So they're already starting to put them in residential neighborhoods. Are you going to tell people they can't park in front of their house without paying a fee? That's ridiculous. That's not the way the taxpayers wanted it. That's not the way our founding fathers founded this country. It's all about the big buck. How can the city make the money off the people? And that is wrong. You're trying to push the low income out of the city of Portland.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson. And it's interesting that Ms. Fritz talked about the swing shift people. Just last night, I was at a business that was closing, and people who aren't making $15 an hour working in the service industry here, their real wage goes even lower when they have to pay an hour's wage to park for their 7-hour shift, or people who get 30 hours spread over 6 days a week. It's something that we still have a ways to go as a society. The other thing that I guess you just ought to get used to is it will be impossible to discuss the not-so-smart park structure between Yamhill and Morrison at 10th without remembering that we killed Karen Batts, the Karen Batts Memorial Parking Garage, which does have a really cool shop with a lot of menorahs. I never really thought of it as a world-class gallery, but I'm not really in the rack Pam crowd. But the one thing that I think you can take away from what you've heard from the other two testifiers is that perhaps we're not interfacing well enough with our own structures. Just last week, we had the big talk about advisory boards and committees, and there's been a lot of mention of disabled people, but there's nothing in here that where PCOD has had a chance to voice itself. I guess maybe when Commissioner Novick was here and we changed the way we do disabled parking downtown, maybe they feel like they had adequate voice or input, but I don't think we're getting real equity here. And part of that is just a screwed up Americanism. Our fees, fines, and stuff, we punish people that make $11 an hour the same as we punish people who bill $1,100 an hour. And the city needs to move towards structures that really take that into consideration. Fines that are income-based rather than simple, straight, strict fee fines. So I hope that during the next 3 years of your administration, Mayor Wheeler, we can have some progress towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Just so you know, the Commission on Disability supported the changes on disabled parking, and we haven't heard that that's not working out from them. So I would let them speak for themselves if they need to.
Thanks, Commissioner Fritz.
And excuse me, I would also add to that, I think since it's been about 6 months to a year since those changes were made, it would be appropriate from time to time to review that policy and see how it's working out. So I appreciate the testimony. One more individual.
Yes, sorry, he
Okay,
did sign
very
up
good.
on time.
Thank
Richard
you.
White.
Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. I appreciate the time. I wanted to just raise an issue.
Name in the record, sir.
I'm sorry?
Put your name in the record.
I'm sorry, my name is Richard White. I just wanted to raise a quick issue regarding a fee that was mentioned in some of the exhibits. I believe it was Exhibit C, but not changed or specifically addressed today. That fee is I believe it's a Land Use Transportation Infrastructure Charge, or the LTIC. It applies in a very, very broad manner throughout the city of Portland. And it directly targets individuals who are looking to develop property, build a home, maybe enhance their home. And what it does is the application of this fee can be prohibitive in any sort of development by someone who is an individual looking to build or improve their own home. It's one thing when you're a large developer and having to pay these infrastructure charges that are coming in. It's another thing when you're one person trying to just build your home in an affordable way. And again, while we didn't get into the specifics of it today, $600 a square foot for road frontage can be very prohibitive, particularly when you're talking about the outskirts of the city of Portland. It's one thing when you're in the grid and you've got a limited road frontage. It's another thing when you're out in a more rural area and have a much more expansive road frontage. So I would just wanted to raise this to your attention now. Hopefully we can continue the dialogue and continue looking at how we want to address this. Because another particularly cumbersome point in this is that there's no appeals process to it. There's no waivers. So it's either if the fee applies to you, you're paying the whole thing regardless of situation, circumstance, or anything else. And when you're talking about a fee before any sort of permitting fee that's directly related to the development that you're trying to put in, again, you're kind of getting hit both ways before you're even able to start focusing on the cost of the home itself.
Very good. Thank you. We appreciate
Appreciate
your
it. Thank you.
testimony. Any further board comments or discussion? Hearing none, this is a non-emergency first reading. It moves to second reading. Next item, please.
Item 489, appoint Andreas Oswald to the Planning and Sustainability Commission youth position for a term to expire May 31, 2019.
So colleagues, about a month ago, we reappointed 5 members of the Planning and Sustainability Commission to new 4-year terms. And today, we have the opportunity to appoint for the youth position on the commission, which is a 2-year term. Andre Oswald's my recommendation for this position. If confirmed, he'll be the second youth commissioner to serve on the Planning and Sustainability Commission. For further introduction, I'll turn it over to Susan.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Good morning, Mayor, Council. Susan Anderson, Director of the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. We're really excited to have Andres join the Planning and Sustainability Commission as our next youth commissioner. The youth position is a 2-year term, so we rotate that every 2 years instead of 4, and it's for someone who's between the ages of 18 and 25. Andres, there was quite a number of students and people from the community between the ages of 18 and 25 that applied for this. Andres has a bachelor's degree in politics, and next month will complete his master's degree in urban and regional planning at Portland State. He's been very active in the community, working in the St. John's neighborhood. He worked to some degree with the Housing Bureau for a while, and he's been working mobilizing low-income people and others in Vancouver, looking at the planning process. As many of you know, the Planning and Sustainability Commission is a group of 11 individuals. They volunteer literally hundreds of hours each year. And unlike traditional planning commissions from around the country, our commission has people on it that have more than development experience. Many of them have experience and knowledge of public health, environmental issues, climate change, housing, transportation, and other issues. And we did that several years ago to broaden the scope so that we're not just looking at development, but we're looking at the impacts on people. So the position that Andres will fill brings a perspective on youth. Some of you met Maggie Talmadge. She was our youth commissioner over the past few years. She grew into an individual who has much experience and a lot of depth, and we're really, really excited to have Andres join us on the commission, and I know you will enjoy working with him.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to see you. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Having the opportunity to do work in planning and what's currently happening in Portland is amazing for me. But I was really motivated to the commission to further the work the city's doing around equity, to look at how we can work towards making sure the plans we create are implemented and accountability is present, But I think more than anything, what I'm really interested in is, as I've learned more about it, finding ways to bring in a transition from just community outreach to having community ownership of plans and to empowering and building capacity of people. So we're not just asking people for input, but seeing how we can work with them so that they can have a voice that's heard at the table. Thank you.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your willingness to step up and participate. It's fantastic.
Director
Colleagues?
Anderson, just have a question. So is Margaret Talmadge now had been reappointed in another capacity, or is she moving off the commission?
She's moved off the commission now and has time for her regular job finally.
There you go.
So-
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Colleagues, any other comments before we move to testimony? Commissioner Fritz.
This is a voting position, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know that with the school board, there was a youth person who voted, but it didn't count. But this one is included in the two, right?
This is one.
But we have two positions? I thought you said we have two youth positions?
No, it's for a 2-year term instead of 4 years to give more people an opportunity to be in this position. It's really a great way for youth who are predominantly in college to be able to take a next step into the kinds of things that they want to work on.
Yeah, I created that confusion because Andres is the second youth commissioner that
Got
we've
it.
had, but the first is now moving off and he's coming on. That was my confusion, sorry.
Mayor and Director, you might want to think about having more than one, because I remember when I was appointed to the Planning Commission as kind of the only neighbourhood environmentalist activist, it felt pretty lonely. And so having 2 or even 3 folks advocating for a particular point of view might be more comfortable, because I think in addition to the work that Commissioner Fish is doing on transparency and accountability, I'm going to be working on how do we help and support new member supports and commissions. And one way is it to make sure that they're not the only new person or the only one of any particular group. So just something to think about.
Can I ask one other question? I just concluded service on the search committee for the new director of the Hatfield School, so I got to be reacquainted with some of the folks at the College of Urban and Public Affairs. And in the write-up, it says you're completing your master's degree in urban and regional planning at PSU. What has been your particular interest?
I came in to do equity planning, and being in Portland, kind of the most pressing need ended up being housing. So my formal specialization has been land use, but in it really looking at how we can bring equity to land use, and most recently focusing on housing, specifically housing policy, and how policy can be used to address the housing needs of the community.
Terrific, thank you.
Is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, one person, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson.
Very good.
Oh, thanks. And did anyone invite?
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson. And Commissioner Amanda Fritz has sort of seized my idea, and it's something, though, that I think needs even more discussion. Planning and sustainability, I mean, other than education, you can't have a more youth-based issue. I think, in a global context, we should draw, parallels to the, in my personal opinion, the idiocy of the Brexit, where the people that made the passing margin for the Brexit vote will be dead, dead from old age, when Brexit is actually implemented. So, planning and sustainability, even though we have entrenched institutions and procedures, the more youthful people with more life ahead of them that we can put on citizen committees, the better we'll be able to adapt to a fast-paced changing world and have youth advocate for situations, because they're going to be living in a climate-stressed world. They're going to be dealing with not so much flooding here, but we don't know how, we don't know what trees, for example, are going to be dead and unsustainable here because of climate changes. So as you recruit, thank you for the selection, Mayor, but also think about the whole structure as we go through this review. I know it's a little bit more in Commissioner Fritz's basket of the scope of who's serving rather than what Commissioner Fritz and I will be working on as far as knowing who we've got serving now. But definitely this is a impressive move. Somebody has to say MERP, though, Masters of Urban and Regional. Let's not MERP. He's going to get a MERP.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. My name is Joe Walsh, for the record, represent Individuals for Justice. We would like to,
Joe, turn it on, thank you.
once again, my name is Joe Walsh, and I represent Individuals for Justice. I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate the appointee. We love volunteers. We like the idea of volunteers coming here so the people of Portland can learn a little bit about them. We don't like it when you just appoint volunteers and nobody knows who's on the commission, and we suspect the commissions are just rubber stamps for you guys. So when you say the commission or the committee has endorsed this thing, it means almost nothing to us. So when you bring them in and you introduce them and we get to know them, maybe we'll change our minds, which would be a good thing. So once again, we would like to congratulate the volunteers. We don't like the system that's in what's going on now unless you continue bringing the volunteers in and introduce us. Takes a few minutes, lets them be honored. We will cheer them. We like volunteers. We almost never go after volunteers. If you're elected, yes, we go after you. If you volunteer your time, we think that whatever your beliefs are, even if they're different than mine or our organization, you deserve credit, because that's being a citizen. You come and you look at your politicians and say, I like what you're doing. Or in our case, most of the time, we don't like what you're doing. Either way, it's important that we get to know each other. And the volunteers, even though they're giving their time and their effort to go to these meetings, in the beginning, should come here. You should give their resume, like we learned about this young man this morning, which is impressive, going after his master's degree. I like that. So again, congratulations on this one. And please continue it when you appoint. And all of you leaders in your own little right, in your own little bureaus, please do that. If you appoint somebody, bring them in and introduce them. Maybe we'll buy them a mocha.
Thank you.
Mr. Walsh, I'll just speak for myself. My policy is I ask the volunteers, would they like to take time off work to come in and be recognised? If the answer is yes, then we have it on the regular agenda. If the answer is, I'm sorry, I can't be there, then we put it on consent with the information that you've requested.
Okay, would you speak a little bit slow? Say that again, Amanda. I didn't get it.
My policy is when we're appointing somebody to a board or commission that I'm in charge of, we ask the volunteer, would you like to come into council? Can you take time off work to do that? If the answer is yes, then I put it on the regular agenda. If it's no, we put it on consent and we have the information about that person in the documents filed for council.
That's reasonable. You know, we can be reasonable and disagree, but in this case, we're reasonable and we agree. If the volunteer doesn't want to come in and you want to give some kind of information about the volunteer, that's cool. I think the citizens of Portland have a right to understand who's on these committees. So when you say to me, whoa, the committee said it's okay, I have some understanding who's on that committee. If I don't know who's on a committee, that means nothing to me.
Great, thank you.
understand what I'm saying,
Appreciate it. I'll
Commissioner?
entertain a motion,
I move
colleagues.
the report.
Second.
Commissioner Fish moves, Commissioner Fritz second. Please call the roll.
Fish,
Thank you for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to working with you as we move forward. Aye.
Saltzman.
Well, thank you, Andreas, for your willingness to serve, but I also really want to give a shout out to Maggie Talmadge, who did an exceptional role. In fact, I'm surprised to hear she was the youth commissioner because she's so sophisticated and mature. But she did a great job on the planning commission, and we really thank her, and I appreciate her untiring advocacy for adopting the inclusionary housing policy that this council adopted. So thank you, Maggie, and welcome, Andreas. Aye.
Udaley.
Congratulations, Andreas. Aye.
Fritz.
Well, Mr. Oswald, since three of my colleagues have already voted yes, I will say thank you, Commissioner Oswald, for your willingness to serve. Aye.
Wheeler.
I think this is a fantastic appointment, Andres. You heard what people said. They're thrilled to have you. You have exceptional skills. We're very delighted to have you on board the commission. And I think we would absolutely entertain any comments you have about the composition of the commission as well as you go forward and you learn a little bit more and you have a chance to evaluate it for yourself. I'd appreciate that feedback. So thank you. Congratulations. I vote aye. The appointment's approved. Let's do let's move to 490, and then, Mike, do you have a few minutes, Mike? How's your schedule?
Fine. I don't see Bob or Travis.
Okay, very good. So very good. Let's go ahead and move to 490, please.
490, Deconstruction Program 6-month status report.
Very good. BPS is here this morning to report on the 6-month status of the deconstruction program, which was required by the deconstruction ordinance that was put in place by the City Council last October. 2 years ago, the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability convened an advisory group that included, amongst others, neighborhood activists, home builders, historic preservationists, deconstruction contractors, and salvage retailers. The group was put together to recommend ways to advance deconstruction and material reuse as an alternative to material demolition and then, of course, shipping everything off to the landfill. After providing incentives and technical assistance for several years, the city began to require deconstruction for homes over 100 years old that were slated for demolition. What started as a small grant program has evolved substantially into a first-in-the-nation requirement. And it's a requirement that is having a very positive impact on the community. This deconstruction requirement is an important part of Portland's leadership on reducing carbon emissions and landfill waste. It's also helping to inspire other jurisdictions across the country to consider similar approaches to the one that we've adopted here. In fact, Portland was selected to host a national deconstruction and reuse conference this fall due to our groundbreaking policies and the people who help provide the leadership behind them. So we're going to hear from BPS leadership today, and then it's my understanding we have 4 people testifying following your presentation. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Very good. Thank you and welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Elisa Kane. I'm the Green Building Manager. I'm joined here with my colleague Sean Wood from Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. As the Mayor mentioned, last October, Portland became the first city in the nation to require deconstruction instead of mechanical demolition for select projects. This policy is helping us reduce waste and keep Portland's history out of the landfill, cut carbon emissions, mitigate health hazards, and spur economic development. Being first in the nation means we had a very big puzzle to put together, and we wanted to be able to come back here 6 months into it and share all our successes to date. The report you have in front of you goes into much greater detail, but we're going to provide some of the highlights today.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. I'm Sean Wood. I'm the construction waste specialist for the Bureau. I'm also administer the deconstruction program. Just as a refresher, the deconstruction ordinance requires that houses or duplexes built in 1916 or earlier or designated historic regardless of age must be deconstructed when they come in for a demolition permit. The year 1916 was chosen primarily because in the years leading up to the ordinance, it represented 1/3 of demolitions. So that was a significant amount of house demolitions, but it was chosen as the right threshold that we could both advance the industry, but at the same time not overwhelm them. I think the last time we were here, we used the term bold but balanced, and I think that we struck a good chord. Since the ordinance went into effect in October, we've had 34 demolition permits that have been subject to the deconstruction requirements. 2 of those BPS determined were exempt, so we do have exemptions for hazardous structures or ones that represent very limited reuse. So for example, we had one that suffered from pretty extensive fire damage, so that one was determined exempt. As I said, in the past, 1916 or earlier, that year-built threshold has represented 33% of demolitions. To date, it represents 21%. Part of that may just be we're not through a full annual cycle with the permits. There could be some market reaction to that. It's kind of unknown to us at this point, but it is down 21% for that sector of demolitions. We've had 11 projects completed so far. The rest of those 30, the remainder of those are in the permit pipeline, but 11 have physically come down. And to date, just adding up all the lumber that has been salvaged from those projects alone equates to over 6.5 miles of lumber. And for equivalency, that's the distance from City Hall to the airport. So imagine 2x4s, 2x6s, flooring all stacked end to end. We've salvaged that much material already. There's also some noteworthy advances in the industry to date. When the ordinance first got passed in July of last year, we knew we'd have to have additional folks on the ground to do this work since we were going to be having more deconstruction projects. So we held a deconstruction contractor training later in July after the ordinance passed. And that particular training was a hands-on 3-day training at a live deconstruction site. We had 16 participants at that contractor training representing 12 different companies. 10 of those companies were minority, women-owned, and emerging small business, or MWESB certified firms that participate in the city's prime contractor development program. When we first kicked off the ordinance in October, we had 7 certified deconstruction contractors. So again, as a reminder, any of these projects that are subject to the requirements have to be taken down by a certified contractor. So we had 7 when we first kicked off the ordinance. To date, we have 12 certified deconstruction contractors. There's a 13th in the wings that'll probably be certified here within the next month. 2 of the companies that ended up getting certified became companies because of this ordinance. So they are brand new companies and they're competing in the marketplace and succeeding, but it's because of this ordinance that they're even here. And there have also been a number of different salvage retail facilities that have opened up over the last year, and even one of the new contractors is opening up a facility to complement their work. So some pretty exciting advances so far.
So ensuring that there were enough firms to do the work was critical, but also important was that there was enough workforce to be able to serve those firms. And in March of this year, we hosted a 12.5-day training for workforce development specifically. It was at 4 active deconstruction sites. And with sponsorship from Metro and DEQ, BPS partnered with Earth Advantage and local pre-apprentice programs and nonprofits to recruit candidates for the training. Our goal, as stated in the original ordinance, was to prioritize participation by women, people of color, and other groups disadvantaged in the construction industry. The result of this training was quite admirable, and we had a very diverse crew, and with the help of Oregon tradeswomen in particular, we had more than half of them were women.
That's great.
That's very good. You'll hear from a few of them today, actually.
Good.
So with council's acceptance of this report, BPS recommends that we continue to monitor the program, and assuming continued success, we would return to council in fall with an ordinance to raise the year-built threshold from 1916 to 1926. That would essentially cover about half of all house demolitions. So again, in the past it's been 33%. Currently, it's 21%. If we went to 1926, it would be about 55%, so let's dial it back to approximately half, and that would become effective January 1st of 2018. So looking at starting this off on a calendar year, I think just administratively that will be easier.
Very good. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
I have a question.
Please, Commissioner Daly.
I understand part of the decision to set that 100-year mark was a matter of capacity of the existing industry to take down those homes. And I also understand that the closer we get to World War II, I think the less valuable the materials become, or, but the 10-year advance, approximately 6 months from now, seems small. Could you speak to that? Like, why not be a little more aggressive on the dates and the timeline?
Sure. Yeah, I like analogies, and sometimes I get them right, and sometimes I don't. But right now we're at 21%, so I don't think we've seen the full impact of the ordinance. So I kind of liken it to turning on a hot water tap, and you kind of have to wait for the hot water to show up. I think we may still be waiting for that. Coming back in fall, we'll have a better idea about the full impact of this first step. I'm very confident in our workforce that we have right now to physically take down these buildings. I think we could take down more and be more aggressive in that sense. The question mark, and again, going back to the fact that only 11 of these have physically come down, we don't know the full impact on the marketplace.
Right.
So the risk in moving faster is, yes, we could take them down in a timely manner, but is there the infrastructure to accept that material and sell it? Is there enough demand? So there's no right answer, I think.
That was my second piece of the question, because I have heard from Rebuilding Center that pushing it out to consumers is a challenge, and I've also received a request or suggestion that we come up with some kind of one-stop drop for these materials to be then kind of redistributed out.
Yeah,
Any thoughts on that?
and from where I sit, demand remains strong for these materials. I mean, the fact that we've had new stores opening, Habitat is opening another new store here in the next year. It's just we haven't seen the full impact of this first step is where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you.
And Stephen, the executive director from the Rebuilding Center, will be speaking next.
Okay.
To be able to
I didn't
answer that.
see him.
Yes.
I would just like to support Commissioner Daly's point. I think when we talked about this before, the Great Depression was kind of the cutoff when all the lovely things were not put into buildings anymore. So even if it was another 5 years, that would be something that would be helpful. Just thinking about it. Thank you.
Yes.
And we do have a goal of getting to 1941 by 2019. So we do see these as a series of steps working to at least 1941 and then reevaluate and go from there.
Thank you.
Very good. And did you have a particular order for testimony from your invited guests?
If you'd like to start with Stephen.
Sure.
And then the order it comes from there.
Okay,
Yes.
Emily, Ryan, then
Yes,
Savannah.
thank
Very
you.
good, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good work. And your analogy landed fine. That was good. It was good. Well done. Stephen? Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Stephen Reichert. I serve as the Executive Director of the Rebuilding Center. I've had the opportunity to meet directly with a number of you to give you an update on the deconstruction ordinance. So as many of you know, 6 months in, we consider it to be a positive. While we've only generated a few more proposals this year than we had at this time last year, we're seeing more requests for whole house deconstructions. We're currently booked out about 2 months. And while this may seem a long time for some contractors who are new to the deconstruction opportunity, at this time of year, which is our busy season, it's fairly normal. And frankly, when it gets less than a month, we begin to worry about the possibility of having to do layoffs in the future. So we're just about where we want to be. We have 2 active crews currently, and we've hired 2 new deconstructionists, and we hope to add a third, which will allow us to add a third crew. There continues to be strong demand for materials, and in fact, April was our strongest retail month since October of 2014. Last February, when City Council approved the ordinance initially, we promised you that the ordinance would reduce materials to the landfill, reduce the amount of hazardous materials in the atmosphere, and that we would hire with an equity lens in mind. And I'm happy to report to you that we're accomplishing all of these objectives. We were very pleased to be involved in recruiting trainees to the city-sponsored deconstruction training in March. At our suggestion, the city and Metro provided stipends to the trainees, which we believe to be the best practice. In the event of the 15 trainees who participated in the 12-day training, every single one was from a priority population, a woman, a person of color, or someone who was formerly incarcerated. We hired 2 of these trainees, hope to hire 1 more, and indeed, as part of our work with a new coalition called the Green Workforce Initiative that includes SEI, the Blueprint Foundation, and EcoTrust, we are tentatively scheduled to conduct a 2-week deconstruction training at Grant High School as part of the remodeling of Grant High School, so pretty exciting stuff. The ordinance has put Portland on the map of the reuse world, and we will be hosting the biannual meeting of the Business Materials Reuse Association in September. For our part, the Rebuilding Center will be presenting on how reuse can be used to build equitable and sustainable community. It's a great opportunity for our city to showcase just how great weird can be. So in conclusion, let me just say this. We believe the implementation to date has been successful. We are ready and able to take another bite of the apple. 1926 seems like a good compromise, and with your support, we are confident that we can continue to bring these houses down in a timely manner, further reducing waste to the landfill, hazardous waste in the air, while creating meaningful living wage jobs for marginalized communities. Thank you.
Thank you. We
Mayor, can I
appreciate
just
it. Please,
jump in for a
Commissioner
second?
Fish.
Commissioner Udaley alluded to the idea of a one-stop drop-off place. And I want to just put it in context. We sold our house last year and have really dramatically reduced our footprint. And so a lot of the stuff we had, we wanted to donate. And under the current system, you know, you look at the sort of reuse Portland family, and you decide where you want to give things. And Community Warehouse is a family favorite, so you arrange to have furniture and, you know, things like that. And then we have books, garden equipment, all kinds of things. My sense is that it's already stressful enough to buy a home or sell a home generally. And if there's some way to create a more unified system for people, it'll also cut down on unnecessary vehicle trips of scheduling different people to do pickups and deliveries. And I don't know, Stephen, in the short term, whether it's finding a place where you could take everything, or whether it's maybe coordinating pickup in a way that you could do one call and someone could pick up lots of different kinds of things and then sort it. But I think the more we rationalize that and make it easier for people, the more the system's going to work. And you know, it wasn't until we did all that work a number of years ago around reuse, PDX, and other things until I understood the breadth of the related industries. And you know, there are a number of them are on MLK now, and a number of them in other places clustered. But I, having gone through the experience of closing down a home and relocating, you know, the more convenient we make it, we'll have serve, I think, a number of goals: more participation, less vehicle travel, miles. So I'm very interested in this concept that Chloe talked about a one-stop place to drop stuff. But in the short term, I would welcome one pickup that allows you to have, that sort of sorts out all your stuff and helps you do that. And I look forward to working with both of you on that.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. If Emily, Ryan, and Savannah want to come up together, there's plenty of room at the same time. Thank you. Good morning. I don't know who wants to go first. Please go ahead.
I'm happy to go first.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. My name is Emily Christensen. I'm speaking on behalf of Goodwood Deconstruction and Salvage. We are one of the businesses that responded to the ordinance. We actually were driving home from doing a deconstruction in Hillsborough and heard it on the radio, and we were just doing a personal deconstruction to salvage material for a backyard studio. And we're enjoying the process so much that our ears were attuned to the information, and we were so excited that here was an opportunity to participate in an industry that otherwise would be so foreign, so beyond us. So we formed a crew and became certified, and now we're on our 4th house since November, and we're a thriving business.
Excellent. That's great news. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and commissioners. My name is Ryan Harrelson. I'm here representing Northwest Deconstruction Specialist. I guess my take on the whole deal, as far as experience goes, everything's been positive. to sum it up in one word, it's really positive. Originally from Kansas City, Missouri, breadbasket, Bible Belt of this country. We have a lot of buildings coming down consistently, and there's a lot of work there. So when I heard about this program, similar to you, my ears being attuned to a person that always has to be resourceful, most likely about materials and usage of space, it just clicked with me. So I had a great time with the programming, met a lot of cool people. There was a really diverse crew of folks that I got to meet and work with. And from there, I received plenty of job offers, which was great. Valuable, I would say. It was really a valuable opportunity for me and continues to be so. All of the job opportunities, it's really difficult to decide where, to work because it was just quality opportunities being offered, and which is, for me, I know I have the ability. I'm a college graduate, I have a lot of different skills, work with a lot of different people, and it always seems to come down, there's this unknown of, what's the real possibilities here. And I think that for a lot of people like myself, women, minorities, people formerly incarcerated, I think that, the sky's the limit for offering real, genuine opportunities to these types of people. I'm still enjoying myself at work today. We'll be going back to work, deconstructing a home in Northeast, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. So as far as to sum it up, I'd say positive, and it's really going back to an old way that just makes more sense. We can't be throwing valuable things in the trash, and it's just not smart. So I agree fully, and look forward to continue.
Thanks, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I prepared something a little nervous. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. My name is Savannah Stegan with Lovett Deconstruction. I recently attended the deconstruction workforce training put on by the city. I heard about it through Oregon Tradeswomen Incorporated. I attended Oregon Tradeswomen's winter pre-apprenticeship program, where I had the opportunity to work with deconstruction services on a full house deconstruction. I discovered I loved the work, and I went home and did some research on deconstruction. I loved what I read, especially the sustainability the craft offers. The idea of reusing, repurposing, and recycling building materials while lessening the impact on our landfills really spoke to me. I've always enjoyed hard manual labor, problem solving, and learning the best and most efficient way to do things, so I thought deconstruction might be the right fit for me. Oregon Tradeswomen told me about the deconstruction workforce training that was to be put on right after graduation. I signed up and was accepted. In the interim, I contacted Durr Lovett with Lovett Deconstruction and told him of my interest in working for him after I graduated the pre-apprenticeship program and after I'd finished deconstruction training. He hired me before I was through with both, but I didn't start work with him until after. The deconstruction training taught me more than I could have imagined and prepared me for the work ahead of me. Thanks to the deconstruction training, I was familiar with decon processes, materials, and tools. There's a world of knowledge yet to acquire, but I feel the deconstruction training really helped solidify my choice to go into deconstruction, as well as give me confidence and some know-how before stepping onto my first job site with Lovett. Before all this, I worked in a warehouse part-time, and before that, I was a pet sitter, barely scraping by. Now I work full-time and make more money than I have before. I see deconstruction as a career path, and I'm excited for the future. I'd also like to add that the deconstruction workforce training instructors, Dave Bennick and Sarah Badiali, were incredibly knowledgeable, supportive, and helpful. A lot of my success is thanks to them. I am so grateful for my experience with the training and would like to thank everyone else that was involved. I think deconstruction is a foot in the right direction as our city grows. Training people with the skills to deconstruct our old homes and buildings seems like a viable and necessary endeavor. I hope that others might have the same opportunity that I've been so fortunate to have been given. Thank you.
Thanks, Savannah. Appreciate it very
Could
much.
I just ask a question? What kind of wages does this pay? Kind of what's the range? I'm not asking you what you make, but
Yeah, I'm happy to speak on that. Wages it's definitely, like I said, we're a new business, and we believe very strongly in paying a living wage. We pay between, if you want the specifics, between 15 and 25, and then upward toward 45 for our crew leader. And if I just may take a sidestep and thank Sean Wood and specifically Jordan from Earth Advantage. As we have formed our business and progressed along, the support from the city has been essential. And the interest in the city to limit the number of deconstructors to a certified deconstructor amount of 12, and I guess now 13, has been essential. If it had been an open playing field, my belief is that the demolition companies that have the existing relationships with the developers would have stepped in to perform that task and would not have provided the opportunity for a new industry to step into the space that was created with the ordinance. So
Fabulous,
thank you for
that's
that.
really helpful. And so what if somebody's looking at home and wants to get involved in this profession, how would they go about it?
Can you repeat your question?
If somebody's watching at home and thinking that making a living wage out of saving beautiful things from old homes is something that they want to do, how would they get involved in this business?
Well, as far as getting involved with our company, we have recently opened up a salvage yard. It's a warehouse. And I think that you guys have done the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that has been an interesting sort of, we didn't necessarily foresee that coming as the next part of our business. It's a two-part business now, so we have a deconstruction and then we have a salvage yard to sell the materials. And so, having those two revenue streams, we now are looking at employees for the salvage yard. And so in terms of if you're looking to build a beautiful home, you can visit any one of the facilities that now have an abundance of gorgeous material to choose from that wasn't available before.
Thank you very much. This is very exciting. Appreciate you coming to tell us about it.
How about if someone just wants to be a guest deconstructor for a day? Because you guys are making it sound really fun.
It is so fun.
And I could use a break from...
Come on down.
Good. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We appreciate your taking the time to come here and share your stories and give us this update.
I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public testimony?
Yes, we have 6 people signed up.
All right, very good. Thank you for being here.
The first 3 are Terry Parker, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson, and John Sandy.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Terry Parker. I'm a 4th-generation Portlander living in Northeast Portland, and I also am on the United Neighborhoods Reform Steering Committee. Do you want Portland to be a sustainable city? If so, expanding this program and putting a halt to the mechanical demolition of homes utilizing diesel particulate belching excavators cannot come soon enough. Moreover, the mechanical demolition of homes built prior to 1978 spreads contaminated lead paint dust directly into the air of residential neighborhoods where kids play, families barbecue, and where people simply enjoy the outdoors in the green yards around their homes. Deconstruction is about sustainability and preservation. The reuse of building materials lessens the need for new raw materials, including lumber from growing trees, and preserves historical artifacts such as period window frames, interior moldings, trim, and other materials of character that otherwise could not be replaced. In the 1920s, Portland was in the midst of a new home building boom. These homes were built with high-quality construction using old-growth lumber. There is a vibrant marketplace for both restoration and repurposing uses of these products. It is a crime not to preserve the irreplaceable lumber and reuse the materials from these homes. As compared to mechanical demolition, deconstruction also creates significantly more jobs, including entry-level jobs that can lead to higher-paying jobs. Finally, if the city does not slim down the east side overlay zones identified with the residential infill project, and/or if HB 2007 passes through the legislature without significant changes, whereby the bill addresses affordable housing instead of giving developers carte blanche by preempting local zoning, there will be a significant escalation of starter, first-time buyer, and affordable renter homes being torn down. For a city that prides itself by promoting reuse and recycling, it is only common sense to expand the deconstruction program to include homes built between 1916 and 1978. And I attached my view of HB 2007 to your written testimony, so hopefully you can oppose that bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Okay,
morning.
I'll jump in. Good morning. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and commissioners. My name is John Sandy, and I'm a resident of Northeast Portland. And I guess my message, taken off of Sean's comment, is I'd like to be a little bit more bolder and not quite so cautious with this program. For the last 2.5 years or so, I and many others have come before the council presenting evidence of the significant potential health risk by not using best practices when removing a structure in an urban environment. Last October, the City Council finally acted with accountability to their primary responsibility of protecting the residents and took a concrete action by implementing this deconstruction ordinance. A real applause to the boldness of last year. I just want to continue that boldness a little bit. Well, I do have some empathy for the developers' concerns on timing and costs associated with newer development. They should not have the final word on what is acceptable risk to their actions. The council must also hear the fear and angst in the voices of mothers with children. These are the individuals who bear the potential consequences. Within the BPS report, it was mentioned that HB 871 is presently moving through the legislature and in supporting the verification of proper asbestos abatement, as well as the use of best practices when dealing with lead paint dust during demolitions. There is no doubt the effective abatement and full manual deconstruction represents the best practice to minimize spread of hazardous materials while removing a structure. Allowing the market to dictate the timing of the use of best practices is a morally suspect policy in my mind, especially in the light of the fact that a house a day is demolished in Portland. Therefore, I urge the council to fulfill their responsibilities and aggressively push the implementation of deconstruction to include all houses built prior to 1978. While I'm confident that with clear direction from this body, the market could effectively react and demonstrate deconstruction capacity within the next 6 to 12 months. That should not be the driving factor. Doing what is right and proven to reduce exposure and associated risks to residents should not be held hostage by the assumed stress it may place on the developmental market, nor the reuse market. So my final thing is be bold. This is a great program. You've heard the positives for the sustainability. Don't forget the health impacts, and that's where the boldness should come from. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony, all three of you. Next three, please.
Yep.
Oh, I
passed.
apologize.
That's
I'm
all right.
sorry. Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Hope springs eternal for you. No. Charles Bridge Crane Johnson, and the Bridge Crane can pick up a whole different posse of 5 middle-aged white men for you to listen to today. I've been glad to see the attentiveness to council on this issue from the 2 prior presenters. These houses and all the houses that are being demolished contain toxins, and in the sake of letting developers chase a quick buck, we've been releasing poisons into our neighborhoods and not paying attention, which we should have been paying attention as we learned from the Moss study and the glass companies. So not only is this green on just the basic principles of reuse, not filling the landfill, it's also a tiny, because we've limited it to the 1916 houses and now we're only expanding it to houses 1926 and before, it's a tiny but not adequate a step to protecting quality of life for our neighbors. If you don't go as these gentlemen have suggested, all the way up to 1978, or at least move it up to the World War II homes, you're essentially saying, well, so those developers can create some ugly 3-story boxes of multifamily houses that don't have any affordable units. We'll let some toxins, lead paint, whatever, get knocked around in the atmosphere where half the time there isn't even a person spraying a hose to keep the dust down, let alone taking proper precautions. So to back that up so far, we'll see what comes up with the next test fires, but none of the poor, distressed, suffering developers have made it in here to tell you how burdensome and horrible this is. So, as the other gentlemen have mentioned, be bold. Hopefully we've got some women and people of color coming behind me to say the same thing.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Next three, please.
Are Kimona LeBeau, Barbara Kerr, and Margaret Davis.
Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Mayor, and good morning, Commissioners. How are you this morning? Well, I am also one of the students that went through the program, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing. I just want to say ditto what Ryan and Savannah both said about it. Phenomenal. Dave Bennett, I think he should be teaching all of the classes. I also want to, again, say thank you to Earth Advantage and the City of Portland for providing the tools, which I would not have been able to do it, if not. Now, for me, because I also was applied for a welding school, which was a similar opportunity. They were going to pay for everything. It started 2 days after it ended, so I have not been able to do any jobs since then. However, I'm excited more about starting a business, and especially after hearing the other Good Works, or Goodwood company, that's what I'm really excited about. And I think that this is an amazing opportunity. I think that we need to train more people. I think that all houses need to be deconstructed for a lot of the reasons that some of the gentlemen, the 3 gentlemen that spoke prior to me. And one of the main reasons besides, toxins and those kind of things, and things that we did learn about too is that, hopefully people are getting permits and not just throwing everything into the, rubbish and all that now. I mean, hopefully it is, and most of the companies are doing it a lot better. And, what we learned also about the whole process of asbestos and lead and all those kind of things. But for me is the wood. I mean, I think about it, like when he told me that about the 6 miles, I mean, I get a little verklempt. And also, too, is, some of this wood prior to that some of it was over 500 years old. And now it's 105 years old or 650 years old or whatever, I mean, that's some old wood. They don't even have this kind of wood anymore. The wood is stronger. It's amazing. We can do more things with it. They can't even cut wood like that anymore, because we just don't have that. So I just believe that it, as a green community, that, it's something that is just, we need to do it. Like I said, I think all houses, I don't think it should stop at 26 or 78. I think every house should. And I just want to say thank you again and just thank everybody that is a part of this. The city, Sean Wood, Alicia, Lisa, I mean, just everybody has been phenomenal. Sarah and also Badali, I mean, just gave us so much information, and I just feel like we're hiring you. You. Now, just come on down. Once I start my business, I'm going to need some help. So, we will definitely train you, and we're excited to do that. So, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Commissioner Fritz.
Excuse me, could you just say your name for the record again?
Kimona LeBeau. Could you hear
know
that?
who to apply to.
Oh, and I want to say, and also the Northwest deconstruction specialist, they're doing a great job too. Just everybody is just phenomenal. So I'm just excited and proud to be a part of this. So thank you very much.
Taking time to be here.
I know, and I feel bad, but I've been waiting here for a long time. My meter's going to run out, so I do need to take off, and I got to go back to school. So
thank you. We appreciate your being here. Thank you, and good luck with the welding program. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Kerr, and I represent the United Neighborhoods for Reform on the Deconstruction Advisory Group, or DAG. And UNR is pleased that the year-built timeline for the ordinance requiring deconstruction, if a house has to be demolished, has been moved up to 1926, starting January 1. However, we feel this is still much too slow and ask that the year-built date be moved to 1978, the year the use of lead paint was discontinued. how often do you have an ordinance that addresses so many of the urgent issues that are on your plates? We obviously know that the ordinance was started to save trees, use less energy, increase our sustainability. And we've heard the wonderful reports on the entry-level jobs with growth potential for so many parts of our community that don't have that opportunity. But also think about the better quality, lower cost materials that enable repairing rather than replacing house parts, making our affordable homes, the truly affordable homes, the ones that already exist, more affordable to maintain. And that creating small businesses that do not require college degrees or large capital, saving the urban tree canopy. A big machine comes in, you lose your trees. Eliminating a widespread source of pollution affecting public health in all the neighborhoods, not just focused hotspots, and eliminating a cause of learning disabilities and behavior disorders that gravely affect children for the rest of their lives, not just providing programs to ameliorate their disabilities, which cost a lot of money, but stopping them from occurring in the first place. All this in a single ordinance with negligible cost. An ordinance whose only stated downside is that the building industry is having to quickly adapt to a somewhat different way of operating that they knew was coming and have already begun to embrace. One that is nothing more than being responsible for their impact on the neighbors and their role in the waste stream. We can no longer ignore hazardous materials pollution from demolishing buildings. Obviously, the discussion around Senate Bill 871 is looking at best practices for demolitions. But deconstruction simply is the best practice and needs to be the way all buildings are demolished. In the DAG, we talk about the challenge of the abundance that will result from more deconstructions. A challenge of abundance. An abundance of good quality salvage materials and job and business opportunities from deconstruction companies and the salvage materials outlets, which you've heard today are popping up already. And from that to creation and sales of reuse products, which we haven't talked about today. We have put our toe in the water in the first phase of the ordinance. There is some trepidation, even though the results have been good. We've been somewhat bold, but we're still holding back. We need to trust the businesses to rise to the occasion. We need to remember that deconstruction just makes sense. It will work. Instead of worrying that it might fail, let's put our energy into building on what we have started, the trainings, the certifications, the networking. Please weigh any short-term challenges against all the benefits that will be lost and damage done in even just a year if we limit the requirement for deconstructions to 1926 during this period of rampant demolitions. The waste in the landfills, the loss of good quality materials from maintaining low-income homes, the lost income from new jobs, the pollution of the neighborhood children. Please set the bar at least 1978 so we can celebrate all that we will have accomplished by doing so.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Margaret Davis. I'm a Northeast Portland resident, and I also work with United Neighborhoods for Reform, which is a grassroots group whose anti-demolition and responsible growth effort has been endorsed by 43 neighborhoods citywide. Props to Sean Wood and the Deconstruction Advisory Group for this proposal and for helping protect public safety with the ordinance. It's a step forward for Portland, a city known for sustainable solutions. The problem here is demolition. Not only does demolition remove a usually viable, affordable home from the landscape forever, it all too often leaves amid clouds of toxic dust, exposing anyone within 400 feet to hazardous materials such as lead and asbestos. Before 1978, a gallon of paint had 15 pounds of lead in it. Now imagine how many gallons of paint would go on a house before it was demolished. Also, the Centers for Disease Control says there's no safe amount of lead in children. This is not a new problem, and wouldn't it be great if we could put it firmly in our past? Deconstruction is a slam dunk for Portland. If our city must lose a house, and we debate whether this is necessary given our copious vacant land available, then at least the house should be recycled. I'm betting you all recycle. I would also bet that you don't litter. There's laws against that. And yet tear-down builders think it's okay to dust thousands of Portland residents and properties with hazardous materials that carry a lifetime of ills for anyone or thing in the fallout zone. Mechanical demolitions litter, sometimes lethally. You might hear that the reuse industry would be swamped with materials or not enough labor can be found to recycle these homes, But if that were true, by the same token, we should cool the unabated building boom occurring now with its insatiable demand for materials and labor. How can it be such a problem to recycle and so easy to demolish and landfill those homes? If we're not recycling, we really are throwing it all away. Developers might complain that the expense of deconstruction, usually just a few $1,000s more than mechanical means, is unaffordable to them, but that's nothing compared to the cost of addressing lifelong health problems or learning disabilities. Please extend the requirement for deconstruction to apply to homes built before 1978, when lead paint was outlawed for residential use. Portland in the past has dared to be different and bold and proactively progressive. We stand ready to help the city make positive headlines again and to send the message that the greenest home is the one left standing. If not, it must be recycled. It's what we do. With the demolition-heavy residential infill project and House Bill 2007 looming, the decision you consider today has great ramifications. As an activist, I know Portland leaders must step up to protect public health and safety. As a mom, I wonder if my kid can't pay attention in class because there were 7 demolitions on my block. As a Portland resident, I hope you'll take your public safety charge seriously and make mechanical demolition a hazard of the past, and deconstruction the only way a pre-1978 house leaves our landscape. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much. And I just want to make clear that today we're not adopting any new policies. We're accepting a report from the committee, but we're hearing loudly and clearly from a number of people testifying that they'd like us to consider an expansion of that timeline.
We can do it.
But that's not what we're doing today, just so you know. We're accepting the report and getting the feedback that you're providing.
When do you expect you will make a decision then?
That's up to the will of the council and the committee, so we'll get back to you. I mean, we're hearing it, and I think it makes sense, provided that we can absorb it, and as a strategy, I agree with it.
Great.
But I just want to be clear, we're not taking a vote today on to extend it, we're just accepting the report.
All right.
We do appreciate the testimony.
The report does say that they're going to come back in 6 months with a goal of expanding it by January 1st of next year.
Thank you, Commissioner Fritz.
Mayor, I move the report.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion before we take the roll? Please call the roll. Thank you, ladies, for your testimony.
Fish.
Well, thanks for the report and all the good news. Thanks to the folks who took time out of their busy days to come tell us the success stories. And we wish you abundant success, obviously. And I appreciate, Mayor, the testimony we've had about some of the household hazards. There are 3 ways this council can address the issue of household hazards generally. And we know we're talking about lead and asbestos in particular, but it's not limited to that. Number 1 is that we can ensure that a buyer of a home knows what the risk factors are in that house. And we've started to take steps to expand disclosure. We now require disclosure about an energy score, which is important. But I think the right to know principle needs to be strengthened, so there is an area there I think we could do some good work. The second is we can work with the community to strengthen state law. State law currently is woefully inadequate to, and they don't have the resources, frankly, to enforce the law about asbestos removal, for example, before a demolition and things of that nature. And so we need to strengthen those laws and the oversight. And the third, and I think almost the most important for me, is we have to find ways of creating cost-effective mechanisms for people to get these hazards out of their home. We shouldn't have to wait till you sell your home to make it safe. And what we know is that for a lot of cost-burdened households, it's very difficult to get this out without some kind of help. We provide some measure of help to do energy efficiency upgrades, and we have figured out ways to do that. I think we need to be thinking creatively over time of how we can get lead out of people's pipes and how we can get asbestos out of the walls and lead paint out of the walls. Because as long as that's there, it's a risk to the homeowner, and that is separate and apart from the risk that happens to a demolition. So I think these issues have been framed for us, and the question is between notice and state law and cost-effective ways for doing remedial work. I think we have some work that we can do as a council. I thank everyone for a very illuminating presentation. Aye.
Saltzman.
Well, I want to start out by acknowledging former Mayor Charlie Hales for his leadership on this effort here that we're bestowing accolades on today. I think it's rare when the city council actually gets it right and actually comes up with a policy that really is a win for the environment, actually creates jobs and creates new small businesses. I mean, it's really rare when we get it that right. So I think we've really, to not use a pun, hit the nail squarely on the head here. We have a solid policy that helps our environment, helps the neighbors around demolitions, but also, as we've seen, created jobs and new businesses. So it's really, I'm overjoyed to hear this. And in fact, I just had my bathroom deconstructed by Lovett. I don't know if you were on the job or not, but can't recognize people in their hard hats. But I was really pleased to have a deconstruction of my bathroom. And I think this is something that, more and more people are going to be warm to. And I think it's right to look at this policy and to do it in the right way that will continue to get as many materials reused as possible, but also make sure we don't overwhelm the market, which could then have a negative impact on the businesses that are relying on this market to grow and prosper. So we need to get it right too, continue to get it right. Please to vote aye.
Udaley.
Thank you for your report, and thank you to the community members for your testimony. I do not believe that we should be giving developers or anyone else the choice to pollute our environment and unnecessarily burden our landfills. I fully support accelerating the timeline of the deconstruction requirement to at least 1941, and as well as putting some extra protections in place for those homes that fall between 41 and 78, or maybe just right up to now, to abate lead and asbestos and deal with other issues. So we are anxiously awaiting the state's decision around those issues, and my office will be working on creating more stringent rules for Portland, specifically around lead and asbestos abatement. And I also look forward to working with Commissioner Fritz through the parks and through BDS on strengthening our tree code in order to better protect our urban canopy. So I gave testimony in support of this ordinance. It was one of the first times I testified at City Council last year, and I'm really pleased to get to continue to play some kind of role. Aye.
Fritz.
Well, Commissioner Saltzman, I think you're a little modest when you said that this is one of the few times we've got these kinds of things right. I think a number of the things that you led in the Office of Sustainable Development, particularly the renovations to recycling programs and such, would also come under that category, again in partnership with Susan Anderson, the director. I also go further back and laud Mayor Sam Adams for his vision in putting the Bureau of Planning and the Office of Sustainable Development together under Susan Anderson's leadership, and really put our climate action plan into actions that are working. And so I'm very excited that this has worked. I think we were a bit nervous, the three of us who were here last year, whether it would pan out the way we thought it was going to, and it's great to hear this has been successful. Thank you particularly. It was nice of the folks who testified and took time to be here today to compliment the staff and the training that they got, because it's a full parcel of stuff. It's not just doing a policy. That's one of the advantages of the commission form of government, that we make policy, and then we are also responsible for implementing them and making sure that people have the resources they need for the policy to be successful. So I do appreciate Mayor Hales and now Mayor Wheeler continuing to carry the baton on that level. So, aye.
Wheeler.
Great work, everybody, and thanks to those of you who came to testify. I know you're all eager to get back out onto the job site. I'll just go big on this and say this is further proof that improving the environment around us can be done in a way that is socially just, that also creates economic prosperity for people who are often left out of the equation when it comes to new opportunities around business development, higher wages, job training, and economic opportunity. So this is one more data point disproving the theory that being environmentally conscientious is bad for business. Just the opposite is true, and your testimony today is living proof that that is the case. So thank you all. Obviously, I'm very happy to support this. I look forward to the report coming back from the committee in 6 months, having weighed the pros and cons of extending the timeline. It sounds like there's a consensus to do that. So I would very eagerly await where you think that line could be drawn and how we could expand this program in a judicious manner. So thank you all. I vote aye. The report's accepted. Thanks.
Mayor?
Commissioner Fish.
We have a time-certain proclamation, and we have some folks here for that. And we also have a regular agenda item proclamation, and we have some folks that are also with us. So I'm hoping we can hear those two proclamations back to back and then pull up the consent stuff.
Yeah, that makes good sense. We'll do that first. Let's go to item 491, please.
491, proclaim May 15th to May 21 to be 31st Annual Great Blue Heron Week in Portland.
So I will read the proclamation, and then I'll pass this on to Commissioner Fish to introduce our speakers and one very large bird. Whereas the great blue heron is a majestic symbol of the city of Portland's efforts to restore, protect, and sustain ecologically healthy habitats for fish and wildlife and for the enjoyment of citizens in Portland and throughout the region. And whereas the Great Blue Heron Week represents an opportunity for the city of Portland to recommit its efforts to the natural environment by celebrating past successes and future challenges. And whereas the city of Portland continues to work the Intertwined Alliance and its 160 partners, including the Audubon Society of Portland, Willamette Riverkeepers, and Urban Green Spaces Institute to expand, restore, and manage the Intertwine, the Portland-Vancouver region systems of parks, trails, and natural areas. And whereas the city of Portland accepted donation of 45 acres of Ross Island from Ross Island Sand and Gravel, which is managed by the Portland Bureau of Parks and Recreation. And whereas Portland Parks and Recreation has continued to improve the ecological health of the natural areas by removing invasive species, planting native trees and shrubs, monitoring birds and other species, and working with the community to steward the property. And whereas the Bureau of Environmental Services has adopted the Great Blue Heron as its logo and works in partnership with the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality to keep the Willamette River safe from harmful algal blooms and supports restoration of riverine habitats, including Ross Island and Oaks Bottom Wildlife Refuge, as models of healthy urban fish and wildlife habitat. And whereas it is the City of Portland's commitment to continue restoration and management of Ross Island and nearby 160-acre Oaks Bottom Wildlife Refuge as a refuge for great blue herons and myriad other wildlife, and to provide access to nature for Portlanders. And whereas the City of Portland will continue to monitor and be actively engaged with Ross Island Sand and Gravel in the restoration of Ross Island, the Ross Island Lagoon, and the Great Blue Heron Colony and bald eagle's nests on Ross Island. Now, therefore, I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, do hereby proclaim May 15th through May 21st to be 31st Annual Great Blue Heron Week in Portland and encourage all residents to observe this week. Commissioner Fish.
Mayor, the hour is late, so I will simply invite our three honored guests forward. The first is Mike Hauk, the Director of the Urban Green Spaces Institute. The second is Travis Williams, the Director of Willamette Riverkeeper. And the third is Bob Salinger, Conservation Director of the Audubon Society of Portland. Gentlemen, welcome.
Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners, my name is Mike Hauk. I'm here today representing the Urban Green Spaces Institute. And for your information, this all started with Bud Clark, who was then mayor, gave a speech at the Hilton Hotel and mentioned great blue herons numerous times. I took the advantage of contacting the mayor immediately following, suggested we have a city bird, great blue heron, 2 whoop whoops. And 2 weeks later, we had a proclamation. It may sound a little trivial, but what it does is allow us each time to come to you and your staff and talk about what we have done and what we will continue to do to ensure that herons share the environment with us. This year, normally we have lots of field trips all over the region. This year, because Ross Island Sand and Gravel just submitted their report on their restoration activities, we thought it was appropriate to focus strictly on Ross Island this year. And to that end, tomorrow we're meeting with local, state, and federal agencies to discuss that progress and when we can expect full restoration of Ross Island by Ross Island Sand and Gravel. On Sunday, we'll be doing our usual Ross Island Regatta, paddle around Ross Island. I think Commissioner Udaley will be coming along with some of her staff. I'm not sure if the rest of you will join us or not, but you're certainly invited. Each year, we take this opportunity to kind of put aside the monetization of herons and wildlife and green spaces, in other words, what they mean to us, and celebrate them for their intrinsic and spiritual values. And that's really what this is about today. And in that spirit, we asked then Oregon Poet Laureate William Stafford to write a poem to commemorate the establishment of the Great Blue Heron. I think that it really speaks to, again, the inherent value, the intrinsic value and spirituality of sharing herons in our environment. So it's very brief. I will read it. Spirit of place. Out of their loneliness for each other, two reeds, or maybe two shadows, lurch forward and become suddenly a life lifted from the dawn to the rain. It is the wilderness come back again, a lagoon with our city reflected in its eye. We live by faith in such presences. It is a test for us, that thin but real undulating figure that promises, if you keep the faith, I will exist at the edge, where your vision joins the sunlight in the rain. Heads in the light, feet that go down in the mud where the truth is. Pass it on to Travis, director of Willamette Riverkeeper, has done a huge amount of work with the city in restoration on Ross Island.
Thanks, Mike. Inherent value? Inherent? I tried. I just want to say thank you to the city of Portland for you specifically for the proclamation. It really says a lot, as well as the city's continued investment in Ross Island, which was reflected in the proclamation and in Mike's remarks. There's still a lot of great work to do out there, and our three organizations, as well as others, are working hard to do work parties related to habitat restoration, as well as simply just to get folks out there to see it and experience it. Because even though it's really in the middle of the city of Portland, you can hear the traffic in the distance. When you get out there, you're really able to connect with nature and everything that river environment provides on that front. And it's a surprising amount of solitude when you're able to paddle down the Holgate Channel back channel. And I also want to thank specifically this guy for all the work he has done over the decades on this issue, and certainly many others, but Mike has really led the charge on Ross Island over a long period of time, and then certainly this gentleman right here as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Travis as well. I would acknowledge Travis. Bob Salinger, Conservation Director for the Audubon Society of Portland. So we also appreciate your designating this the 31st Annual Great Blue Heron Week. I think it really speaks to how long we've been at it as a city, trying to protect and restore this site, and trying to protect natural resources in the city as a whole. I do want to take it up a level. I know our focus today is on Ross Island, but I think we always have to think about it in the greater context of the river. And I look at this year as a really pivotal year moving forward. I think, first of all, we need to redouble our efforts on Ross Island, really think about what the future will bring and how we bring it into more complete public ownership and what that looks like. Number two, we have an incredible opportunity in front of us this year with the Willamette River Superfund process. We've moved beyond the record of decision. Now is the time to move forward into implementation, and the progress we're making there is exciting. That I think it was a divisive process, but people are coming together, interested in really moving forward to make our river healthy for people and for wildlife. And then number three, I just wanted to flag for you the Central City Plan, which is coming before you this summer. A lot of work has gone into that plan. It has some really new, innovative, I think, cutting-edge policies around the environment, including the river. And it's been a while since we've adopted some new innovative policies around the natural resources in Portland. It's been several years, really, since we've seen some big steps forward the way we used to take. I think that's right in front of us again with the Central City Plan, and that's exciting. So hopefully we'll be able to move that forward and keep the environmental policies intact that are in the draft that's coming to you. So with that, I'll just say thanks. Hope we see you out on the river Sunday or some other time, and look forward to working with you on these other issues as well.
And actually, I would say that we would be more than happy to take you out another time if you can't make it on Sunday, so just get in touch.
Great, thank you, gentlemen.
I've got a question. Oh,
Commissioner Daly?
What are we paddling? Are they kayaks, canoes?
Well, we have
Yes.
we have a
Travis says
safety
yes.
boat.
I
You're
don't wanna
welcome
go on
to
the
come
safety
along in
boat.
the safety boat or paddle your own kayak or canoe.
It's actually
I
a
can
safety
do canoe.
barge.
I've never been in a kayak. I can do.
All right.
All right.
So I'll wave to you from the Esplanade because I'll be on the National Alliance of Mental Illness Walk. I also wanted to note that I think it was in the past year that the Port of Portland gave Portland Parks and Recreation the most northernmost tip of Ross Island. So that is, we're gradually assuming control of the entire island. Thank you very much for your work.
Mike, quick question, just for an update. Progress on the no-wake zone? I know
Well,
it involves...
thankfully, we did get a major portion of the no-wake zone we sought from the Marine Board, from basically the Oregon Yacht Club upstream to the mouth of the Ross Island Lagoon and the lagoon itself, but not downstream from the mouth of the lagoon. We're hopeful one day we'll have the whole Holgate Channel.
And have we had success working with our partners at Multnomah County in terms of enforcing the law?
Yes, I'd say for the most part. I actually think most people are observing the slow no-wake zone. The problem being that the signage is not really adequate, and it disappears during a portion of the year. I would say for the most part it's been fairly successful, but we could ramp it up a bit.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We sure appreciate it. Thanks. Nick, can you hand one of them? That's the original copy of the proclamation.
Hey, Bob. This is from the mayor.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
So maybe you're going to read 506.
Yeah, let's move to item 506, please.
Proclaim the month of May to be Older Americans Month in Portland.
So, Mayor, let's invite up our guests before you read it. So, George Hawker, Office of Commissioner Loretta Smith, why don't you come forward? Barbara Bernstein, Elders in Action, and Aaron Gregg, Multnomah County Aging and Disability Services. We have 3 honored guests. Welcome. The mayor will read the proclamation.
All right. Whereas the city of Portland, I'm sorry, did you read the item? Okay, very good. Whereas the city of Portland and its community partners at Multnomah County, Age Friendly Portland, Elders in Action, Portland State University, and AARP are committed to a shared vision of a Portland that is welcoming and inclusive to people of all ages and abilities. And whereas the city of Portland supports livable communities for people of all ages and abilities through such actions as funding Age Friendly Portland's work, expanding choices for public restrooms, improving pedestrian safety, funding programs in our community centers, and implementing policies to keep Portland's neighborhoods welcoming and accessible. And whereas communities flourish when people of all ages and abilities contribute their experience, their time, and their perspective. And whereas older adults contribute their time and experience to help redefine what it means to age by serving as mentors, starting businesses, volunteering in their neighborhoods and in schools, and challenging our concepts of the aging process. And whereas we celebrate the many contributions of older adults in our community who deserve our respect and appreciation, and now therefore I, Ted Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Portland, Oregon, the City of Roses, hereby proclaim the month of May to be Older Americans Month in Portland and encourage all residents to observe this day. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it very much.
Barbara, would you kick us off?
Sure. Happy to.
Heads our partner, Elders in Action.
My name is Barbara Bernstein. I'm the Executive Director of Elders in Action, and I want to thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for that proclamation, and City Commissioners for this opportunity to speak. The Administration for Community Living has a theme every year to celebrate and to bring attention to older Americans, to older issues. And this year, it's Live Out Loud, and I can't think of a better city in which to live out loud, speak out loud. What is it? Live out loud, sorry.
Age out loud. Age out loud.
Live out loud.
Age out loud. And live out loud.
Excuse me. Can you please let her continue her testimony? Excuse me. You're interrupting the testimony. Please continue.
Thank you. Civic engagement is built into the City of Portland's DNA. There are so many opportunities to be civically involved through ONI, the Office of Neighborhood Involvement, the Civic and Diversity Leadership Programs, the neighborhood programs. Bureaus have advisory councils. We have boards that we participate in, the NET program. Older adults and Portland residents have an opportunity to really be engaged in their city. And Elders in Action is another portal for civic engagement, and our volunteers are amplifying the voices of those who cannot be heard. And I wanted to give you an example of the kinds of calls that we're getting from older adults who are more vulnerable. We had a call from a woman whose rent was being increased. This is a very common call that we get in the last year. About 50% of the 300 calls we get are from older adults experiencing housing insecurity. And this woman said that essentially she didn't think the property management knew who they were raising rents on. And all she wanted was a witness to communicating to them how she couldn't afford the rent increase and where was she to go. And through the help of our advocate, the management company agreed to let her stay, even though she couldn't afford the rent increase until she found another place to stay. So that is, I think, an example of how we can be more responsive to the challenges of the housing emergency that we're experiencing. Another woman called, or her daughter called us because her mother, her 82-year-old mother's house had been sold out from under her. She was partially blind. This was a case that you may have read about in the Oregonian last year, and Legal Aid was able to take her case to court. Really, we thought there was no positive outcome to that, but through our relationship with Legal Aid, we were able to work with them so that they were able to take our case. So again, these are our volunteers working in partnership with older adults to help them through a problem. And generally, we have about 4 to 5 restraining orders that we help older adults fill out against their caretakers. So while Portland is an amazing city in which to age, we do have a responsibility to also care for those who are more vulnerable. And older adults engages vital older adults in service of those more vulnerable older adults. How we age is largely determined by the culture and environment we live in. And we are very lucky to have an amazing transportation system and to have livable, walkable communities. And I ask that the council be really vigilant of those things. As rents increase and our older adults are pushed out from the center, they are further away from the resources that they need to age well. We don't want this community to just be for the privileged. So I would like to thank you, Mayor Wheeler, for your commitment to vital aging, for your commitment to retirement security. Elders in Action looks forward to being your partner in making Portland a more age-friendly community. Commissioner Fish, we'd like to thank you for being our liaison and always being an advocate of older adult issues at every opportunity. Commissioner Fritz, we'd like to thank you for your work with ONI and the parks. Right now, we're looking forward to working more closely with them and their senior programs. And Commissioner Udaley, we're honored to be a part of the visioning process with ONI right now and linking our age-friendly work with the opportunity to expanding our community's resiliency work. So I think there's a really nice connection there. So thank you to all of you for your public service and your commitment to older adults, which we all hope to be one day.
Barbara, thank you for your testimony. I just want to, you left off one thing that Elders in Action does that's been invaluable for the city, which is you've helped us learn how to better communicate with some of our most important stakeholders. And it is my intention over the next year to take some of that, those lessons that we've learned in working with Elders in Action and codify it at the city so that every time we do a publication or a communication, we're making sure that it's accessible to older adults. And your work in that has really been important, so thank you.
Thank you.
George Hawker was the public advocate here for a number of years, and now he's doing great work on the other side of the river, but really representing our whole community. George, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Morning.
And Commissioners. My name is George Harker. I'm the public advocate for Commissioner Loretta Smith on the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Fish, for the invitation to be here this morning. I'm especially pleased because as an older adult, this is my month. And Mr. Mayor, we met for the first time in the first few months of 2009 when I staffed Commissioner Fish for the kickoff briefing facilitated by Jay Bloom of your task force report, Everyone Matters, a practical guide to building a community for all ages. The work of the task force and subsequently the work of Age Friendly Portland and Age Friendly Multnomah County, the AARP, and other older adult-focused organizations have made the Portland metropolitan area a leader nationally and internationally in addressing older American issues and needs. And I can't think personally of a city that I would rather be growing older in than this one, and I've been in 53 countries and lived in 5, so this is a place for older adults. Older Americans have been for the past several years and will continue to be the fastest growing demographic we face. In line with this year's theme, Age Out Loud, or live out loud. I want to just share some recent information. According to Newswire yesterday, local organizations experience increased demands with fewer resources. Older Americans are stepping up to fill in the gaps, and their service is more important than ever, said Aaron McGrath, Acting Director of Senior Corps. Older adults are transforming society and addressing some of the toughest problems facing our nation by closing the mentorship gap, reducing crime, reviving cities, fighting the opioid epidemic, helping seniors remain independent in their homes. And just for a moment, I had my mother in a nursing home in Silver Spring, Maryland for 6 years, from 1997 to 2003, at $6,000+ a month. And 4 years ago, I had my only living aunt in a nursing home in Maryland, and it was over $8,000 a month. It means that most adults end up using up all of their resources and then having Medicare take over. And if we lose Medicare, it's going to be even worse. A major drain on this already $1.6 billion budget deficit that the state has. So the more we can do to keep our older adults in their homes, the better it's going to be for everyone in this state. So anyway, older adults are also rebuilding communities following disasters, and more than 21 million Americans aged 55 or over contributed more than 3.3 billion hours of service in their communities. Older Americans provide services valued at $78 billion to the U.S. economy. They are a national treasure. Finally, I'd like to mention that Commissioner Smith invites any seniors here today to her quarterly pancake breakfast this coming Saturday, May 20th at 8:30 at the Urban League's Multicultural Center on Martin Luther King Boulevard. We feed quarterly somewhere between 75 and 90 seniors. I will be cooking along with other members of the staff. On Friday, I will go out to Restaurant Depot and purchase 40 pounds of sausage, 40 pounds of bacon, 30 dozen eggs, 20 pounds of pancake mix, about 12 gallons of orange juice, 400 individual pats of butter, and we will be cooking first thing Saturday morning, so please come. And finally, Commissioner Smith will be holding town hall forums on elder abuse and fraud with some other partners, Elders in Action and others, May 24th at NAYA, June 7th at the Hollywood Senior Center, June 9th at East County ADVSD, June 12th at Impact Northwest, and June 14th at the Urban League Multicultural Center. Again, thank you for having me this morning. Thank you for your service and everything you do for not only older Americans, but everybody in this area.
Thank you. We sure appreciate your testimony.
Great.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Commissioners. My name is Erin Grayheck, and I'm the Community Services Manager with Multnomah County Aging, Disability, and Veterans Services. We are here today in celebration of Older Americans Month. The theme for 2017 is Age Out Loud. What it means to age has changed, and Older Americans Month is a perfect opportunity to recognize and celebrate what getting older looks like today. More than ever before, older people are working longer, trying new things, and engaging in their communities. They're taking charge, striving for wellness, focusing on independence, and advocating for themselves and others. We know that a person's ability to achieve wellness, maintain dignity and choice, and to have the wherewithal and freedom to advocate is influenced by the broader society and its institutions, programs, and policies. Aging, Disability, and Veterans Services is proud to be an institution that promotes the independence, dignity, and choice in the lives of older adults, people with disabilities, and veterans. And we are grateful for our partnership in the Age Friendly Network with the City of Portland, with nonprofit partners like Elders in Action and academic institutions like Portland State University. And we're thankful today to be present and celebrate this proclamation.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all of your hard work, and thank you for being here. And we'll continue the journey.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
May I just ask a question?
Yes, Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you, Commissioner Fish, for that wonderful presentation. We're not currently convened as the Budget Committee. Am I correct in assuming you're going to raise the issue of funding for the age-friendly cities this afternoon? Or somebody is?
That's to be determined, yeah. We've been trying to get information about what is and is not being funded currently.
Yeah, so I would just state for right now that I'm committed to continuing the Age-Friendly Cities progress and hope that we will continue to work together in old and new ways.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have a staff person available to do 492.
Yeah, so let's go back to the items that were pulled, 492, 497, and I believe is 499, Carla, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so let's start with item number 492, please.
Authorize an agreement with TriMet for an estimated amount of $20,080 to implement the Environmental Services Project Southwest Yamhill Morrison to Southwest First 13th, project number E10886.
And Carla, may I ask, how much testimony do we have on this issue?
See, this was pulled from consent. Mimi Gurman requested it.
Okay, so
So I
Mayor,
don't have
just,
sign-up
I'll tee this up very quickly.
Okay.
The Bureau of Environmental Services is planning to replace the pipes underneath the MAX lines. BES must enter into a license agreement with TriMet. In order to do so, this license costs about $20,000. This covers indemnity, special use provisions, and warranties. This cost does not include the actual cost of replacing the pipes, only the agreement with TriMet. And Bill Ryan is here to give us about a 1-minute overview.
Mayor and Commissioners, as Commissioner Fish said, was agreement with TriMet is just to pay for services. And I have with me here Susan Horton, I'm sorry. Susan Horton, who is the project manager for that project, and she can answer any further questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Public testimony? You can go ahead and be seated. Thank you. This was an item pulled by a citizen, so we're not sure what the issue is.
So Mayor, this is a license agreement in order to do work that intersects with MAX lines.
Correct. Good morning.
Hi, I pulled this today because I have concerns about TriMet, and as long as TriMet is acting as one unit, as one organization, then I feel that my testimony is valid. I'll start.
This is a license agreement,
Yeah,
Mayor, to allow us to do pipes.
unfortunately, that's not correct. As I stated at the very beginning of the meeting, the issue has to be relevant to the issue at hand. And
This is
specific ordinance
specific
is
to licensing. and specific to the rest of this,
To
which
this
is...
licensing agreement,
Exactly.
correct.
Right. And I'm going to start off by reading a poem. The skin of snakes, lying on this crumbling soil, fingers spread, searching for air or a prayer. I receive that I am dirt, clinging to my teeth. I am sweat, waters, carrying whales and salt that brines venison. Though starlight falters, there is breath in the shallows. A tide recedes, as do city council members, swallowed, crawling through the outer skin of snakes. I am the last beginning. I don't have all that much to bring to the table regarding this, except for a bit of common sense. And I wish that the City Council would understand that when TriMet, regardless of this license or any other license, kills somebody, that that money that they are owed by the city should go for funeral rites for those whom they kill. And this just happened with Terrell Johnson, and I think that that money, instead of being used for this, should go to the family for whatever they would like regarding his death by TriMet. And if not, then the City Council could take that $20,000, not pay TriMet, punish TriMet, and create a memorial for all of the people who have been killed by cops in our city. And that is my testimony.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridge Crane Johnson.
Bridge Crane.
No relationship to Mr. Terrell Johnson, killed on TriMet property. With the TriMet Max system being closed recently, I'm a little concerned about overlap here. A couple weeks ago, Commissioner Fish made an aside to Commissioner Fritz about the ultraviolet pipe curing, and there's been equipment on the Max, so there's something already going on there. So I don't know exactly where this is happening. The other thing is, I think for citizens who have seen huge headlines in all the media that TriMet has money to build a jail, and now we can't fix our sewer pipes unless they get licensing fees from us, seems a little bit absurd. And then, I don't know if you know this, but we have a governor named Kate Brown who's going to privatize TriMet. So that actually also creates a question. The issue of actually privatizing TriMet is been raised by the governor in the past day. It's in the Willamette Week. So not the best timing to, this is, it's a small amount of money. The city can lose it and not suffer, except as Ms. German pointed out, it's the funeral costs of Terrell Brown. But I think that regardless of if you're persuaded that this is a moment at this time to give $10,000 away so that we can fix our sewers to TriMet under some questionable legal schema, the city, Metro, and the county need to move quickly to bring TriMet under a local elected board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Star Stoffer. I have to concur with Mimi here in regards to these licensing fees from TriMet. I happen to utilize TriMet as a mode of major transportation for myself, and quite frankly find them to be extraordinarily expensive. First of all, why they need $20,000, $10,000, even $1 from us extra at this point is absurd, considering they are allocated money from the Department of Homeland Security to give to the Portland Police, who utilize those funds to police their Max tracks and their trains and their buses. And as we've learned, and it's been confirmed through Terrell Johnson's killing, they use it to kill black people. So you need to be allocating this money back to the families of people who have lost loved ones due to exposure on these tracks or on these trains from houselessness. You need to be giving this money back to families who have lost their children due to police murders like Terrell Johnson, Quanez Hayes. You need to be investing this money to make TriMet overall safer for women in general, especially women of color. Their bus stops are ridiculously insecure and have poor lighting most of the time. So I'm not really sure why they're asking for $20,000 for a license when they charge extraordinary fees to utilize their service. What are they doing with their money? Before they're awarded this money, I want to see what they've been doing with the money that they've been getting from tickets from people. And not only that, the money they've been getting from people who are issued tickets for not having fare on their systems. What's going on with that money? Why do we need to pay more money to this extraordinarily expensive transportation system that is working in conjunction with cops that kill black people? This is just disgusting. But yet again, you'll do nothing because that's what you do, because this has to do with black people, and it has to do with TriMet, and it has to do with the police, and this is just another white supremacist circle jerk. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public testimony?
I didn't have a sign-up sheet.
Before I move this to second reading, since this is a non-emergency first reading, I want to be very clear that the reason we are paying TriMet $20,000 is we're asking them to shut down the electricity so that we can fix a sewer system without electrocuting our public employees. I think it's a very good use of resources. It's a non-emergency issue. We're moving it to second reading. The next item pulled was, I believe, 497.
497.
Very good. Read the item, please.
Extend agreement with the Oregon State Marine Board by 3 years to restrict nighttime use of Duckworth Dock except on certain days. Mimi Gurman pulled
I
this
don't
as
know,
well.
do we have,
Okay, let's move on.
okay, sorry, it's taken care of. Thank you.
So we can
Next,
vote on it.
no, it's on, we do, we need to call the roll on that because we pulled it already.
497, Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman. Aye. Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted, so that brings us to 499, I believe, if that's correct.
499.
499?
Lightning pulled 499. Okay. Grant revocable permits to the Portland Rose Festival Foundation to perform activities relating to Portland Rose Festival Annual Celebration from May 26, 2017 through June 11, 2017.
Who pulled that item?
Lightning.
He's not here.
I think Ms. Gurman also wanted it.
No.
Had she pulled it?
Lightning pulled it first. You did ask for 497 accidentally, I think, but 499 is pulled.
All right,
But you want to
do we
speak to
have
it.
somebody here to talk about it? Us, from staff, I mean,
Staff.
first. Yeah, thank you, sorry. Good morning. Just a brief description would be sufficient.
You bet. Allison Madsen, PBOT. I'm the special event coordinator. It's my privilege to come before you. This is my 10th year with this ordinance, which is basically the housekeeping that allows us to issue permits for the parades, Waterfront Village, and some of the closures for the formation disband areas.
Well, I'm very glad it got pulled, because thank you for all your work on it. It's a very complicated permit system, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Public testimony.
I don't have a sign-up sheet for this. It was pulled.
My name is Mimi Gurman, and as I voiced a few weeks ago regarding the Rose Festival, my issues are with the Rose Festival's funding of Fleet Week, which is all part of the same thing. And I'm speaking specifically today to these permits. The city used its right to pull the permit on May Day against the May Day protest, which is, I believe, what went down. And what I would like to say in testimony is that I hope that come Fleet Week Day, when we do protest warships coming into our waters, that the city considers revoking the permit for Fleet Week on that day as well. So really, that is what I have to say. I feel that the houseless community is completely discriminated against with the Rose Festival, especially blatantly regarding the rights that Rose Festival has to camp in the streets, to get tents. The stores help them out. Everybody gets to crash on the streets, no cops, you know, this whole thing. And it's a blatant disregard to how houseless people actually live and get swept off the streets, while the Rose Festival people enjoying themselves get to hang out on the streets in tents. So that's one issue, but my main issue is Fleet Week, and there will be protests. And I do hope that the city does what it does, unfortunately what it did on May Day, that it does in the right way on Fleet Week and pulls that permit for these warships. I'm asking you to consider pulling that permit, since you have the right to do so for
Mimi,
those
can I
warships.
respond to one thing?
You can.
And thank you for your testimony. Just to be clear, this particular ordinance pertains to things like a permit so they can hold the Junior Rose Festival Parade, the Starlight Parade. So it doesn't have anything to do with Fleet Week. This has to do with some of the other public events.
These are parks and transportation.
Exclusively. But your testimony, I understand, relates to something else. But I just want to, this particular one involves a very limited range of activities.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Quite frankly, I'm afraid that my testimony is going to sound like it mirrors Mimi's in some ways, but my particular issue with these permits, these revocable permits, have actually nothing to do with Fleet Week, and everything to do with the police that will be escorting the parade. And also, is it the case that the police will have their own float in either of the parades? Do we know, is that the case?
Has nothing to do with this matter.
Okay, so my concern about that is I'm concerned about people's safety participating in this parade. The Portland Police have displayed through recent May Day actions that they have no regards for permits, and they have no regard for people who are vulnerable within these marches or these parades. And I'm concerned that at any moment during this, either one of these parades, the police will decide to lose their minds and attack people and revoke this permit. And then what happens to all that money? What happens to all those people when they have nowhere to turn because it's the cops that are attacking them? I mean, we're going to have people of color here. We're going to have immigrants. We're going to have disabled. We're going to have children. We're going to have elderly. We're going to have people who cannot just drop and run, as we've seen on May Day. And the cops have shown time and again that they don't care if there's a permit. They don't care if there's not a permit. They will attack, and like they did on May Day, there will be barely any warning, if there's a warning at all. And so I urge you to consider whether or not you need to have the police out there where they can attack these people who will essentially be sitting ducks thinking that they're safe and protected under their extraordinarily expensive permit. Meanwhile, the police could be plotting against them, putting on riot gear while they're marching with them, embedding themselves within the march, and then launching tear gas and pepper bullets and attacking people of color and boxing in other marginalized community members who can't escape, creating a serious, dangerous situation in the streets that, where panic and fear and injuries are going to be a thing. I mean, are we going to have first responders out there to respond if the police do decide to go crazy and attack people during this parade? I mean, I really urge you to consider the safety of the people that are going to be in this parade. Permit or no, these police are dangerous. You have killer cops out there, and they're all just outrageously aggressive and over the top, and you need to do something about that.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Charles Bridgecrane. And I think the answer to my question is maybe fuzzily in here, but when the United States Navy and maybe a couple foreign ships show up with their to expend a little bit of the huge United States defense budget, it seems like we give them free fencing and we isolate our cherry trees from our neighbors so that we can have this security thing. I don't know if that's the community village. The staffer mentioned a community village. But right now, while we have homeless people sleeping underneath Steel Bridge and those access ramps for Steel Bridge, there's no porta potty there. But when the billions of dollars of defense industry equipment wheel up and more south upstream from the Steel Bridge, there'll be a porta potty and there'll be fencing. And a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, we were tremendously concerned that some of our neighbors destroyed the parks right across the street with their little Occupy thing. So I just think it's ironic that it looks like, based on the additional revenue in the community from the Rose Festival, we can eat the cost of fencing ourselves off from our own cherry trees so that these multi-million-dollar warships could be additionally secured by some fencing that the city of Portland will pay for and create a buffer zone between us and our brave service members who need a buffer zone between us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman. Aye. Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. 507 is our next item.
Bill?
507, authorize a competitive solicitation and contract with the lowest responsible bidder for construction of the citywide sewer rehabilitation project, number E10562, for $7,800,000.
Commissioner Fish?
Thank you, Mayor, and it is late, but we have a number of items to get through, and we'll try to be as brief as possible. This project will rehabilitate and repair the worst of the worst. About 20,000 feet of combined sewer, pipe, manholes, service laterals, and other infrastructure in severely deteriorated condition and at risk of structural failure. The project area includes more than 30 different locations in neighborhoods and business districts throughout the city. These improvements will protect public health and our environment by preventing structural failures. Here to kick things off is Bill Ryan. Bill?
Thank you, Commissioner, Mayor.
Good morning.
Again, with me today is Susan Horton. She is the project manager also for this project, so I'll let Susan tell you about citywide sewer repair.
Hello, as Bill mentioned, my name is Susan Yorton. I'm a senior engineering associate in environmental services. We're here today asking for authorization to approve an ordinance to advertise the $8 million citywide sewer rehabilitation project contract. This project is a part of Phase 3 of the large-scale sewer rehabilitation program, which is approved in our current capital improvement budget. The large-scale sewer rehabilitation program, we're wrapping up Phase 2, getting into Phase 3. Phase 2 designed over 53 miles of pipe, either to be replaced or rehabilitated. 30 of those miles have actually been completed through construction. Phase 3 to date has 18 miles that have been designed. There's 3 projects in pre-design, a couple of projects in planning, so their scope of work hasn't been added to the total miles yet. So the project overview for the citywide sewer rehab includes 62 segments of pipe. It's located in about 30 different areas of the city. The diameter range from 8 inches to 30 inches. 30. The age of the pipe is 50 to 130 years old. We're going to replace over 11,000 feet of pipe. We're going to rehabilitate 9,000 feet of pipe. Also included, that's not shown in these numbers, is 5,000 feet of new sewer service laterals will be replaced, and about 900 feet of inlet leads, and approximately 45 new manholes. So as you can see, the project's kind of scattered throughout the area. The black dots represent the location of the work. The statistics are there, 55% in local residential streets, about 31% in busier arterial streets, and then 14% in easements. The construction methods will be open trench pipe replacement, cured in place pipelining, pipe bursting, and then some pipes are strictly spot repairs. To determine which pipe go in the project, typically our city maintenance crews can repair some of this pipe, but if it gets too deep, over 16 feet, they ask that it be done by a contract, larger diameter pipe the same way, or in heavy traffic areas. And then the Phase 2 and Phase 3 has typical project boundaries. These pipe fell out of those areas, so we're just kind of grabbing all the pipe that need immediate attention. This project posed some challenges. On the west side, many of the runs of pipe are located in challenging terrains, narrow, windy roads. Some sewers are located in wooded areas where the terrain and the pipe slopes are 20%, 40%, all the way up to 67% grade. And typically, when we install on the east side, a flat area, it's at 2%. So these houses are not only located, there's one sewer that's located under a house, some are in backyards or wooded areas. There's manholes that can't be accessed by vehicles, so crews are going to have to pack in the equipment and material to get to the work. Our public involvement staff has contacted over 19,000 property owners, tenants, business owners, and operators in these 30 different locations, including 37 neighborhood associations, various businesses, various business groups. PI has been very interactive in the design process to keep the team informed of local schools, street fairs, churches, farmers markets, basically any community gatherings that the project may impact. So I just want to give a shout out to them because they not only take the word out to the neighborhoods, they also bring it back into the team and help us determine best methods for going about the work. We work closely with PBOT to try to minimize traffic impacts. They help us with traffic control plans. And so if we need to try to determine a different construction method or staging areas to help with traffic flow, they're at the table helping us with that. And one other thing I'd like to point out is all of our projects communicate with the utility companies a lot, natural gas, telephone, fiber optics, electrical. So in this photo here, in the upper left corner, the black square is actually the bottom of a utility pole. So it was inserted, it broke the pipe. We were trying to figure out the best way to go about it, got a hold of the utility company. They agreed to just come out and support the pole. Boom, the contract will be there, just do a small spot repair versus having the utility company go ahead of our work, relocate the pole, cause interruption to their service in the neighborhood area. Traffic control is just, instead we narrowed it down just a couple days of work and minimal interruption to the neighborhood. The engineer's estimate is almost $7.8 million. We hope to advertise next month and begin construction in October.
It may not be obvious from Susan's presentation, but she's really to be congratulated on completing this project because this is all the difficult stuff that was taken out of other projects because it was so difficult that it was bogging down progress on getting the projects designed. So I think Susan would probably use a different word than difficult, but it was a long road to hoe, and we really are proud to have Susan have completed this project.
Thank you both.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, two people, Mary Sipe and Star Stoffer.
So given that we have a lot of items backed up and a lot of staff, I want to respect them for being here. I'm going to limit testimony to 1 minute and 30 seconds. I won't be draconian about it, but if you could try very hard to limit your testimony, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for your patience, Mary.
Thank you. Shoot, I wanted to bring up a website for you.
Why don't we start with Star?
Yeah,
and
start
then,
with Star. And how do I?
It's very difficult to do that. If you could
It's
just.
already queued up.
Okay.
And
I
then
just
Carla,
can't.
if she needs help, maybe you could help her with that. Please go
I'm
ahead.
going to screw up their presentation.
Mostly, I just have some clarifying questions. Are the crews that are working on these projects, are they already chosen at this point? As far as is it a bid situation, or, I mean, are these city employees? I'm just trying to clarify.
Yep. So it's a complicated question. A lot of the work is done by city employees. Some of the work by state law gets competitively bid and comes back. So it's a combination.
And have those bids already occurred for
No,
this particular phase of the project?
This particular ordinance authorizes a competitive solicitation.
Okay, so, I mean, and part of that solicitation of these crews I hate the word diversity because it's such a backdoor racist term in my opinion, but is diversity a qualifying factor? Is that something that we're looking for in these crews?
So in all of our public contracting, we have aspirational goals to have opportunities for people who've historically been shut out for doing this kind of contracting, and we have a bunch of rules and guidelines that we follow. Then we report back to council on our success.
Because mostly what I just want to make sure we're doing is giving the priority to businesses that are owned and run by people of color, families of color, and making sure that, especially where we're working in neighborhoods of color, that we have people working that represent that community so that those members feel safe and feel like their neighborhood is going to be actually taken care of in the way that the city is telling them it will. And that's really the only things that I'm concerned about, that we make sure we continue to do.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Did it work, Mary?
Hi, Mary Sipe.
Good.
I completely support this and all the work that's going on around the city on our infrastructure. Unfortunately, what I don't support is all of the nighttime work that's going on. I brought up the Noise Control Office website, and I'll see if I can minimize it enough so that you can get an idea. This shows you all of the noise variance permits throughout the city. Let me see if I can make it. And if you go through their website, you will see like probably close to 100 noise variance permits that are for sewer repair work, CIPP work being done by the city that's being permitted to be done between 6 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning all over the city. And I testified to this several months ago on another project, asking you to please ask the city to give consideration to how they're doing this work. This morning was a perfect example of something that we're experiencing. I was woke up at 4 o'clock this morning by what sounded like a jet flying over, and it stopped. Then it started up again. And finally, at about 4:30, I went outside, and it was a City of Portland crew working to install the big, wide white stripes to install a crosswalk on the corner of 11th and Northrop. And they said they had to do it because of the streetcar. Well, the interesting thing is that the whole time that they were doing this work, at 4 o'clock in the morning, they had one lane open. As soon as they laid something down, they'd let a car drive over it. There was no reason for them to have to stop traffic. And the most ludicrous part about it is they did this work the day after the streetcar started running down that street, after it had been shut down on that street for 2 solid weeks. We need to really take a look at what we're doing to the people living in our community who are trying to sleep at night. Quite frankly, this pretty much ruined my day for me. And I called the police department, and the police officer proceeded to tell me how the city workers are not subject to the laws and regulations that we have in the city. They did not have a noise variance permit, and she refused to do anything. And the police department does have the authority to tell them to stop working when they do not have a noise variance permit. So I just want to impress this
Can I
upon
respond
you.
very briefly, Mayor? First of all, I apologize. This is it sounds like a PBOT issue. I'm not throwing them under the bus,
Right.
but we're all responsible. And we need to do a better job coordinating. PBOT, Transportation Bureau, and the utilities are doing a better job coordinating, so we do one stop. We don't come back and do it 3 times. I share your concerns about the noise that disrupts people's sleep. I think people have a right to sleep until 6 or 7 without interruption. If you can give us some additional information after the hearing about that item, we'll look into it. And we take very seriously this issue about when we do the work. What I will tell you, though, is that because of traffic and because of other concerns, it is sometimes the only option we have, and because sometimes it's emergency work, our only option sometimes is to do evening work. And that doesn't mean that we can't do a better job of minimizing the sound level. So we take your concerns very seriously.
Thank you. And when you have a moment, if you go to this website and you just scroll down and look at some of these, you will see how many of these sewer repair projects are being done overnight throughout the city. I mean, it's pretty
I'll ask
amazing.
for a briefing next week at my regular check-in.
And I did file a complaint with the Noise Control Office, and I'll be meeting with them this afternoon to get more details.
Good, and
Thank you.
this was certainly illustrated a few weeks ago.
Very helpful.
when
Thank
we
you, and thanks
had
for the website thing.
Yeah.
We had the variance hearing and here on a similar issue.
Right.
So thank you for being there then, and thank you for your clarifications today.
Thank you.
It's
I appreciate
appreciated. Is there any further public testimony? Seeing none, any further board discussion? This is a non-emergency first reading. It moves to second reading. Next item is 508. If you could read the item.
Authorize a competitive solicitation and contract with the lowest responsible bidder for construction of the Tabor Powell Sewer Rehabilitation Phase 2, project number E10382, for an estimated $1,875,000.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the ordinance is adopted. Next item is 509.
Consider the proposal of Greg Winterroud on behalf of Run Our Dream LLC and the recommendation from the hearings officer for conditional approval to change the comprehensive plan map designation from neighborhood commercial and medium-density multi-dwelling to urban commercial, and the zoning map designation from neighborhood commercial 2 and residential 1,000 to storefront commercial for property at 2815 Southwest Barber Boulevard, LU 16-186417 CPZC.
This is a final vote and adoption of the findings. Please call the
Mayor,
roll.
before you call the vote.
Commissioner Fish.
Mayor, I was unable to attend the hearing, and I have not familiarized myself with the record, so I will not be voting on this.
Please call the roll.
Do we need a specific motion first, Lauren, or are we?
There was a tentative vote, so I think that there
We
can
didn't vote
be-
last
yeah.
week. We just made a
I
motion.
move to accept the findings.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fritz, a second from Commissioner Saltzman to accept the findings. Please call the roll.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The findings are adopted. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 510, amend the comprehensive plan map designation and amend the zoning map for property at 2815 Southwest Barber Boulevard, LU 16-186417 CPZC.
Any further council discussion? Please call the roll.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, please.
Item 511, accept the report on status of the Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant, lagoon reconstruction Phase 3 and 4, project number E07146, from the chief engineer.
Why don't we just continue this item, Commissioner Fish?
Mayor,
Just kidding.
Thank you. You must be the most patient city employee ever.
Mayor, I think this is going to win an award someday for the most postponed report in the history, and I beg your indulgence. It's been a long day, and it's going to be a longer afternoon, but this is a very important update, and Bill Ryan has been prepared now on several council sessions to present it, and if we could give him the indulgence of making this presentation, I would appreciate
Well,
it.
I expect it to be a phenomenal presentation. There's been a lot of buildup. Thank you. Welcome, and thank you for your patience. You have been very patient.
And thank you. I'm sure I will not be able to comply with the excellent presentation. We're talking about a status report for the Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant lagoon reconstruction Phase 3 and 4. The Triangle Lagoon is a very important part of the treatment process at Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant. Digested solids from the treatment process are stored in the lagoon until they can be dried and trucked to eastern Oregon, where they are used as fertilizer to improve the dry land grasses used for feeding cattle. The lagoons have been in service for over 40 years. We're rehabilitating the lagoon and installing a new polyethylene liner system to assure 40 more years of continuous service. Just to kind of put you in context of where we're located, at the top of the slide are Smith and Bybee Lakes, and they lie to the west of the site. At the bottom of the slide is Heron Lakes Golf Club, lying to the east of the site. And on the left-hand side of the slide is the Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant, and that lies south of the lagoon site. We are reconstructing the lagoon in phases, and this has been going on for several years, starting in 2002. It is necessary to do it in phases in order to keep at least a portion of the lagoon available at all times and in continuous operation. The current phase is the lining of the North Lagoon, which is about 15 acres of the total 39-acre site. The South Lagoon, which at this point you can see has no water in it, was completed in 2014. One thing that we learned when completing the Southern Lagoon in Phase 2 was that there is extreme variability in both the volume and the consistency of the biosolids within the lagoon.
That is about the most sanitized version of that statement I've ever heard.
Well, it gets worse. Here's several pictures showing the difference in consistency, and you can see that the biosolids vary from a fluid consistency to that of a dried cake that you could almost walk on. The volume, I mentioned the volume also varied considerably, and that is because the lagoons are in continuous operation. We're constantly pumping biosolids into the lagoon and then dredging biosolids back out of the lagoon in order to further dry it and place it in trucks for trucking out to Eastern Oregon. The presentation for the authorizing ordinance, the presentation for the authorizing ordinance for this contract was given to council in June of 2015. Scott Gibson described the likelihood of the wide variation in cost that was associated with that variation we expected in both consistency and volume of biosolids. Scott described that he expected the cost of this work would vary from $9.3 million to as much as $13.6 million. So here we are, we're a little bit more than a year into the construction project and have completed work to further assess the amount of variability or the actual variability. We've made adjustments to the contract to reflect what we've discovered in that year. To put it in context, here's a comparison. On the left-hand side, you see the engineer's estimate. This is a projected estimate based on our current, what we've learned about the volume of materials in the lagoon. The second bar from the left is our current contract, including the changes that we're talking about here that have already occurred, increasing the contract by about $1.5 million. The third bar from the left is our projection of the second bidder's bid from way back in 2015. And to the very far right is our projection of what it would cost had we just decided to rebid the project rather than work with the contractor on this. So there are still unknown conditions that exist. We will still be pumping into and out of the lagoon. We've got 2.5 to 3 more years of work out there, so there is still some risk. One of the risks we're concerned about is the subgrade, how soft the soils are when we get down to the bottom of the lagoon. The last thing we have to do before we can start using the lagoon again is to put in that polyethylene plastic liner. So we're taking steps to try and minimize the amount of variation we have before the end of the contract. We're making continual estimates, re-estimates of the volume of biosolids ahead of us. We're looking at different options for where the biosolids are disposed of. And we're looking at alternative methods for treating the bottom of the lagoon if indeed we get there and it's too soft to construct the liner on.
Oh, just without getting too technical, because it might be a bad answer, but why is the amount of biosolid variable?
As I said, we're constantly pumping into it and we're constantly dredging out of it. The biosolids, if you think of what happens if you were to pump a bunch of semi-fluid material into a pond, what you have is several feet of almost clear water, and then it gets considerably stiffer and thicker with depth. So where they're dredging, what portion of the pond they're dredging in, you know, they're either taking out thin stuff or they're taking out very thick stuff. So
thank you.
That presentation got better with time. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your patience and your hard work. Is there any public testimony on this item?
You had signed up weeks ago, Star. Did you still want to? Okay, I guess,
Very good. Colleagues, any further?
and Mimi left, sorry. Yeah, so.
Colleagues,
accept the
any
report.
further discussion?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Please call the roll.
Fish?
Thank you for that outstanding presentation, and I think you've made it crystal clear that this is an area of our work where we can make best guesstimates about certain of the variables, but because of the conditions, it's very difficult for us to know really what we're dealing with until we're essentially in the area and we're doing the excavation. And I appreciate also the chart that showed the various alternative approaches and making clear that the approach that we've taken is still a cost-effective one. So thank you. Aye.
Saltzman?
Aye.
Fritz?
I hope you won't be offended if I say that was surprisingly interesting. Good job on both the presentation and explaining it so carefully. Aye.
Wheeler?
Thank you. Aye. The ordinance is adopted, or the report is accepted. Next item, please.
Item 512, vacate a portion of Northeast Cooch Street east of Northeast 3rd Avenue, subject to certain conditions and reservations.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners.
And colleagues, are you okay if we go till 1? Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm Carl Aruda, a right-of-way agent with the Bureau of Transportation. This ordinance is for a street vacation of two small pieces of Northeast Cooch Street, just east of Northeast 3rd Avenue, near the Burnside Cooch couplet. This is when the couplet was created for Cooch and Burnside, this is a little stub of Cooch Street that connects to 3rd Avenue. And this proposal was initiated in 2015 by one of the adjacent property owners, Block 75 LLC, which owns the property just north of Cooch. Comments for the street vacation were solicited from the usual city bureaus, other government agencies, utilities, neighborhood associations, and the local business association. There were no objections that were received. Last August, there was a change that was made in connection with the street vacation where the city council authorized PBOT to limit this little piece of Cooch to only bicycles and pedestrians, closing this small portion to vehicle traffic. And so as a result of that approval, the street stub was redesigned and modified, and so the street vacation was expanded to vacate slightly more land on either side of the newly designed bike and ped area. And then in February of this year, the Planning and Sustainability Commission gave their recommendation for approval of the street vacation. And so then based on the ownership of the area, the north piece that's being vacated will most likely become the property of the adjacent owner, Block 75 LLC, and the small piece on the south side will most likely revert to the property owner just south of Cooch, which is Block 76 LLC. And I have any other questions?
I know that we had a couple of my colleagues asked some very good questions last time this thing came up. I just want to make two observations. One is that I remain a couplet skeptic in terms of what we've tried to do. We've done. This is an audacious plan in which we've re-engineered an entire set of traffic patterns, and I'll let this ripen a little more before we make our judgments. But the one concern I do have is that as you're heading west on Cooch, and you're now going into a very dense area, because there are now 3 buildings where there were once 4. Mm-hmm. We are putting traffic, pedestrians, and bikes into a very congested area. And I have already noticed some bad behavior as people navigate that turn. It is an unusual turn. Mm-hmm. It's 2 very significant turns, one left and one right. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that we've created a kind of a dedicated bike area by elevating the street. But I worry that in our zeal to re-engineer this whole thing, we've created a vulnerable place here, and it doesn't necessarily relate to the street vacation, because I understand the logic of that. And I actually think that if traffic on Cooch thought they could go through this street, I think it would create more problems. But I do think this is going to become a reasonably dangerous intersection. And we also have a new building that's going up, which is seems to be built right to the street line. I mean, the setback on that building is unusually modest. So I want to just state a reservation.
And I think some of those concerns was why PBOT made the proposal last August to close that little piece off to
No, and I'm
vehicle
going to support
traffic.
this. But I think there's other challenges we're going to face in that very constrained area.
Commissioner Fish, Andrew Abbey, project manager. I would just note that one of the things that council approved last August was a scope change where we raised the bike lane on Cooch Street going around that tight turn. And we've gotten good feedback on that fix. So yes, it's a very challenging area, but the initial feedback has been positive in terms of what we've done. We made the scope change last August, as you recall, to eliminate the right hook that otherwise would have occurred if we had vehicles turning from Cooch Street onto Cooch Court. So,
Right. I'm going to support this. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Any further questions at this point? Any public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Hearing none, then this is a non-emergency first reading. It moves to second reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 513, grant a temporary revocable permit to Portland General Electric Company doing business as World Trade Center Properties for electric vehicle charging station services.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, Jennifer Lee, Program Manager at Community Technology in the Revenue Division.
Thanks, Jennifer.
The ordinance before you would grant a temporary revocable permit to allow electric car charging stations in the right-of-way along Southwest Salmon between Southwest 1st and 2nd. The charging stations are already there. This is just another agreement because the original agreement expires in August. This TRP will be for a limited duration of up to 1 year. The city and PGE have negotiated a franchise agreement for a 5-year term, which would supersede and replace the original grant of authority from 2015. However, because of the time required to complete the formal franchising process required by the city charter, PGE has asked the city council to consider granting a temporary revocable permit under substantially similar terms as the new franchise agreement. The TRP will allow PGE to proceed immediately under the terms of the negotiated franchise agreement. We anticipate that the new franchise agreement will come before council for consideration later this summer, probably in late June. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Very good. What have you learned in the last 2 years during this trial process? What's worked, what hasn't worked?
Ben Walters with the City Attorney's Office. One of the things that we've learned is that PBOT and PGE as the permittee need to coordinate on other permitting activities in the vicinity of these charging stations, because we'll have folks coming in to do work at the World Trade Center and getting a permit from PBOT to park in these facilities for construction purposes, et cetera. And sometimes that's at PGE's request, and sometimes it's for tenants in the building. And so PBOT and PGE have learned quite a bit during this time period and have put in place some better coordinating programs for making sure that these spots are not otherwise taken during the day when people may need them for charging purposes. The other thing about the franchise that will be coming forward and that's embodied in this permit is that PGE had originally proposed this one location for charging stations. Is because of changes in state law that have occurred, PGE is contemplating proposing charging station locations elsewhere in the city, and the franchise on a looking forward basis does contemplate that that will be occurring.
Very good. Thank you, I appreciate it. Commissioner
So I
Fritz?
didn't understand the financial impact statement. Do electrical vehicles being charged, do their owners pay for using that station?
They currently aren't, but I understand that PG is looking at doing that going forward.
So they're paying $3,000, which is up from $1,000, which is the estimated loss if it was just a regular.
Well, the
pay machine?
$1,000 was the franchise fee that was negotiated in 2015 when PGE first put these in. At the time, PGE was not anticipating charging for the use of the electricity at the charging stations. So it was a nominal franchise fee.
But presumably, these stations are taking up meter spaces that otherwise would be paid for. So is that what this 1,000 and now 3,000 represents?
No, PGE is paying PBOT separately for the foregone revenues. This is just for the administrative costs of overseeing the franchise.
So where are they going to get them? So they are going to start charging?
They do anticipate starting to charge for the electricity provided through the charging stations, yes.
And will that come to council or not?
No, that will
Get
not
to
be
do
coming
that.
back before council. Yes, that's anticipated in the permit as proposed.
Do we know how much they're planning to charge?
No, we do not. That would be a market-driven decision.
Thank you.
Further questions? Great. Any public testimony on this item?
Yes, I have two people signed up, Shedrick Wilkins and Rick Durst.
Very good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I support electric cars, and what's even better, I like the solar cell arrays on the two parking garages on Montgomery Park. My mother used to work at Montgomery Park from 1950 to 1956. She was like a clerk or something. I've been in the building, and I went crazy. In other words, I'm trying to imply that you could take the solar cells and use them to power up electric cars. And I have this interesting story. When in 1990, when I was a student at PSU, I met Dennis Hayes with Mayor Bud Clark and had dinner. That's the best dinner I ever had. He's founded Earth Day in 1970, by the way. And I said, we need something like the Space Needle, you know. And I've been saying this for 5 years at City Council. Instead of building one, just put a restaurant on the 6th floor of the Montgomery Park. And so you could see both the panels from an elevated position. Most solar panels you can't see. So the funny, when I went to Montgomery Park last month, I went up to the 6th floor and went crazy and said there ought to be a restaurant here like the Space Needle, and they're all going like this. But anyway, it was a neat experience because you can see them from an elevated point of view. They ought to put a sign on top of the roof. And on July 19th, I'm going to give a talk on that idea about putting a restaurant there and call it the Montgomery Park Solar Energy Station or something like that. So it's something I might get some money out of this.
Great. And by the way, I don't think that's crazy at all. I happened to have the fortune of being there the day they flipped the switch on those solar arrays, and we were up on that top floor, which is currently vacant. And you're right, it's a stunning view of the city, and you see the solar arrays both on the parking lot as well as on the old facility, and it is an impressive array. It's huge.
You can't see the east side.
That's correct. That's correct.
We're gone now.
Good afternoon.
So I'm Rick Durst with Portland General Electric, and I was just signed up just in case there were questions or anything that needed to be answered. So
I think we just need to thank you. Thanks for your hard work on this, and thanks for being a supportive partner and working with us over the last 2 years on the initial demonstration and continuing the good work going forward. We really appreciate it.
Okay, well, you're
Commissioner
welcome.
Fish, did you have a comment?
Do you have any idea how much you're going to charge for this?
We have some proposals into the Public Utilities Commission for expanding and having additional charging infrastructure, and I don't recall off the top of my head exactly what that is right now, but it's roughly $5 a charge for the quick charging station, or $3 a charge, or $3.50 a charge for level 2, and then there's an added fee during on-peak times, on-peak electricity times from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., and that's what we're going to be proposing. It's going to be something that's going to be fluid because if you look at the market out there right now, there's some places that charge $10 to charge, and there's some that charge just by the kilowatt hour. So there's multiple ways that people are charging, and we're picking something kind of in the middle of that right now. We're going to see how that affects things. People haven't been having to pay a fee except for parking right now, and so anytime that happens, you'll see that you start charging a fee and usage is going to drop off, but eventually it'll come back. The same thing happened when the Ecotality put charging stations in you see them at Fred Meyer's and Burgerville and other places around. They were free for the first year or so while they figured out their payment mechanism. And once they did, they started charging a fee. Again, it dropped off to about half the usage, but then quickly within a few months came back up. And as more electric cars come around and more people have a need for charging, it'll do the same thing again.
And Commissioner Saltzman, are we planning to do that, something like that with the city charging stations?
Excuse me. I'm not really sure.
Yes,
No.
obviously it's a brave new world, and potentially we could add a tax on top of it, so we get some of the gas. We're not getting in gas taxes. We could perhaps recoup with something like this.
So as part of the franchise agreement, we do have to pay a portion of the revenues that we're collecting there, and that's what the franchise agreement is for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, vote.
Very good. Call the roll, please.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The ordinance is adopted. Next item, please.
Item 514, increase on-call contract with Scott Edwards Architecture LLP by $400,000 and add qualified subconsultants to provide owner's representative services for the Providence Park Stadium expansion project.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Yes, hi.
Good.
Carl Lyle, Spectator Venues Program with the Office of Management and Finance. So this is the next step in moving forward with an expansion of Providence Park Stadium. You'll remember last week you approved a resolution in general support of the project, and that kind of set in motion a series of different things. This is the first step, and essentially it amends an existing on-call contract we have with an architectural engineering team. And that allows us to begin using that team as the owner's representatives on the project and start engaging with the project architects and making sure that the city's concerns and issues and desires and goals are being represented as that design work proceeds. As you can imagine, the city's goals and desires for the project don't always line up exactly with those of the operators of the facility, and we're the long-term owners. We have some slightly different perspectives, so we really want to get this team on board soon to be able to engage in that process as they move forward. It is an on-call contract, an existing contract. We will be adding some subcontractors to it, which you can see here, which specifically give us access to stadium design experts, a team out of Denver who's worked on different stadiums before, will be a valuable addition to the team, so that's really important. And it also gives us access to a skilled construction project management team, which will be very important later on in the project if they get to construction. So it's an on-call contract. We are under no obligation to spend this if the project doesn't move forward, but it gives us access to engage now. It's an emergency because design work is proceeding as we speak, and we want to make sure that we're at those tables with the right experts. And so the next steps in this process would be coming back in June. Those would be a term sheet, which would be a time to get back into the deal terms and questions about the exemption on ticket revenue and those things that we discussed last week. So that's really not involved here. And then another piece that would come back in June would be a competitive bid exemption.
So do we have an owner's representative attorneys team? I remember when we did the first conversion that we had outside.
Yes, we do have outside counsel. We're working through the city attorney's office with that, and so that has been going on as well.
And will that contract come back to council?
My understanding is it doesn't need to come to council. Those are existing. I don't know. Look at city attorney's office for how that works, but that's being managed through them, and I don't think council approval is required for that.
I would have to get more information, which we can get to your office.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to know that because, this 400,000 is not being covered by the people wanting to do the renovations.
True.
So the discussion we had last week about this being done with private money is not happening. And so I was wondering also how much we're going to be paying in attorney's fees, which again would factor into the whole ticket tax and concern about the future of the facility.
Yes.
So will this contracts be guided? The architecture firm, will they be guided by the Office of Management and Finance and really overseen very carefully?
Yes, exactly. They are our owner's representatives, and as in the city's role as owner of the facility, they will be our owner's representatives reviewing the design and construction as they proceed to make sure that our ends of the agreements and our expectations are being met.
And I hope they'll also consult with Development Services and Planning and the Design Review Commission so that it does turn out to be the kind of facility that we can all be proud of.
Absolutely. I mean, we want to be careful and make sure that the burden of the permitting process and the design review process is on the applicant, which is the operator. So we are not going to take that on, but we will certainly participate in that as it represents our interests.
My
That's an
understanding
important
is,
clarification. Thank you.
my understanding is the applicant is already in discussions with Design Review Commission, so I think slapping an emergency clause on this makes sense so that we have maximum flexibility, so thank you.
Great. Any further questions? Any public testimony?
Yes, we have two people, Robert West and Star Stoffer.
Come on up.
Yes, my name is Robert West. I'm with Finland Police 911. And I wanted to testify last week, but other things happened. My concern is that they put a 10-year thing on property taxes, so they don't have to pay property taxes.
Mr. West, that's not what they did, and that's not what's before us right now.
Okay, and basically what it is the cities continue, now all of a sudden they're saying, well, we need more money. We don't need just the property tax exemption, but we need the city to come out and have more money.
Mr. West, there is no property tax exemption in this deal. There is no, we have not granted them a property tax exemption.
Let's let him get through his 130.
Okay.
He says
And
45
and
more.
as long as the city, the city shouldn't be paying this kind of money for projects like this. That affects only a small group of people. The city should be spending $400,000 on projects for everyone, fixing streets, neighborhood development, stuff like that, not sports stadiums.
Fair enough. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Star Stoffer. I'm not gonna, I don't know if I'll take my entire minute and a half, but I'm concerned, I want to clarify, excuse me. This $400 is to keep them basically on retainer in case we are to need them for consulting fees. Amanda's shaking her head no, you're nodding your head yes.
Yes. What this is this allows us to hire subcontractor or consultants who represent our city's interests
So this is
in these
basically
ongoing discussions.
a $400 allowance to
Correct, up
utilize
to
to hire
400.
these people. So what happens
Correct.
to the rest of the money that's not utilized?
It comes back.
Okay, because, the reason I ask that is because I'm concerned that $400,000 can be put into an allowance for retaining architecture consultants and other subcontractors and subconsultants and all these things, but yet, I mean, that's extraordinarily higher than we've even allocated or approved or come to an agreement on as far as the houseless budget. And I know that during this project, the houseless community is going to be affected. So I'm wondering how that is going to be, how can you justify this kind of a budget to keep these people on retainer when we may not even use them, and yet it's such a struggle to get any money for the houseless or any projects going for the houseless that's sustainable and long-term, making the streets safer for our houseless, investing in tiny homes. I mean, I know you guys get tired of us coming up here and saying the same thing over and over and over, but you have to understand that when we see numbers like this, and yet we're having these kind of arguments, and I'm almost done. When we're having these kind of arguments about allocating money to people that are vulnerable in our community, this is just to retain people, which means that we have the money to spend on this. We're putting it in an allowance. We may not even use it all. So I'm proposing that, I know I can't stop you from putting this money into an account. I get that. Whatever money is not utilized for this, let's talk about utilizing that leftover money for the houseless. Let's put that into a plan to utilize for the houseless, especially
It goes into the
please don't interrupt
spectator
me.
fund.
Specifically the houseless that
cannot
are
be used for that.
displaced by this particular project, whether it be sweeps or just not even being able to be there because of construction concerns or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Any other public testimony?
That's all who signed up.
Please call the roll.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Fritz.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye, the contract is approved. And if you'll endeavor, we have one more item. Colleagues, can you stay for one more item?
Okay.
Good.
Item 515, authorize revenue bonds in an amount sufficient to provide not more than $20 million to finance space in a project to be located at Southwest 4th Avenue and Southwest Montgomery Street.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. For your consideration is an ordinance authorizing a financing plan to fund the city's share of the Jasmine Block project. The Jasmine Block project will be a joint development with Portland State University, Oregon Health and Science University, and Portland Community College. While full details of the project are unknown at this point, the total building cost is estimated to be approximately $100 million for a 200,000 square foot building. Per Resolution 37274, City Council instructed the Office of Finance and Administration to work with the Portland Development Commission and Portland State University to develop the occupancy and a financing plan. The ordinance in front of you would authorize the city to issue in an amount of up to $20 million to finance the cost of acquiring approximately 30,000 square feet of space in the building. This ordinance is intended to provide evidence to PSU of the city's commitment for local funding as they go to the state in search of additional funding. The current plan is for PSU to develop the Jasmine Block, which is owned by PDC. PDC has agreed to convey the land to PSU for the development with an agreement that the project will include certain amount of tax-generating retail space. We anticipate that BPS will occupy the newly constructed space. Relocating BPS will allow for most, if not all, of BDS employees currently in outlease space to be moved to the 1900 building. We will be back in front of you as the project develops, including seeking council approval of the development agreement between PSU and the city. No bonds will be sold until the council takes official action to authorize the city's participation in the project, such as approving the development agreement. The ordinance includes a statement that no bonds will be issued until council approves the project and the development agreement. I would like Eric Johansson to provide specifics about the financing plan.
Mayor, I'm not sure we need the financing plan at this point, because my understanding in the briefing we got is that this action would then demonstrate to PSU and the legislature our binding intent to bring the local match, which in turn allows them to be competitive for the lottery-backed money, or the money that they're seeking from the legislature. It's slightly out of sequence, but it is in order for them to secure their state financing, after which you would come back to us to deal with, to present the other details of this transaction in the ordinary course. Is that correct?
Commissioner Fitch, absolutely.
And no bonds will be issued. So I don't think, Mayor, we need to get into the details.
No, and this isn't even the authorization of those bonds.
Right.
But it actually does give you a head start. There's a lot of paperwork and number crunching involved with the issuance of bonds, so this obviously gives you some leeway to begin that process.
So we're putting in up to 20 million? How much is OHSU putting in, and how much is PSU putting in, and how much is PCC putting in?
Commissioner Saltzman, I do not know the specifics in terms of how much each one of those are putting in, but if it's based on the amount of square foot, and I was going to do the math, I can tell you the square footage. PSU is looking at roughly about 60,000 square foot of that building. Oregon Health Sciences is looking roughly about another 60,000. PCC is looking at 30,000, and then we're looking at 30,000 square feet. And
So if each 30,000 square foot increment was $20 million, which is what our share is, it seems like we're overpaying relative to the partners for a $100 million building. Is that what, did you say it was $100 million?
It's $100 million. Ours is
So we're
roughly-
putting in at a rate that would make this building 120, 150.
That's correct.
So it seems like we're overpaying our share, and I guess I'm wondering why. I don't know if you have the answer, but.
No, I think
Or is that
that's a good
politics?
question, Commissioner Saltzman. And so our number is roughly somewhere between $15 to $20 million. We're estimating at this time in terms of construction costs, it's roughly about $15.6 to $15.9 million. There is additional room for contingency and also for tenant improvements. And so there's going to be monies over and beyond our original construction costs that will help us to pay for specific improvements for our 30,000 square feet. And I expect that the other partners will be putting money in for their specific tenant improvements too. So
this money doesn't include tenant improvements?
The $20 million, ours does.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
Okay. So it includes the tenant improvements from
Right. That's
Bureau
separate
Planning.
from the construction cost. That's correct.
And to be clear, you will not bring any of these to market until you've come back for the approval of this city council with all of those questions answered.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I just, I would expect OHSU, PSU, PCC to be paying the same amount to this project as we are,
That's correct. They will-
relative to the proportion of space we're taking.
That's correct,
And
Commissioner.
since OHSU and PSU are taking twice the amount of space we're taking, I expect to see their shares to be twice what we're putting in,
Absolutely.
to be fair. Yeah,
Good point.
okay.
Great. Any
Okay.
public testimony on this item?
No one signed up.
Very good. This is a non-emergency first reading of an ordinance. It moves to second reading. We are adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you all at 2:00.